It's time for Intelligent Machines. We've got a big show for you. Karen Hao is our guest. Her book, Empire of AI, is a bestseller. It tells the inside story of what's happening, what happened, and what might happen at OpenAI. You're going to love that. Then Harper Reed joins us for a fun episode. We'll talk about how he uses Claude Code to create a nickname for himself. That and a whole lot more coming up next on IM.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Intelligent Machines, episode 835, recorded Wednesday, September 3rd, 2025. Lich Lord. It's time for Intelligent Machines, the show where we cover the latest in AI, robotics, and all the bijouterie surrounding you. I'm going to use a different thesaurus entry for, is it gewgaws, Jeff? From now on. Gewgaws. That are surrounding you in your everyday life. That is on my right, Jeff Jarvis, Professor Emeritus of Journalistic Innovation at the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism. I'll lay the Craig Newmark jingle in after in post-production. Oh, no, I guess not.
No, it'll be here.
He is now at Montclair State University and SUNY Stony Brook, where he's about to get to work because the semester is about to begin. Except do you actually go anywhere? Or you just no. You just sit in your.
The entire world sees me with this microphone and says, "Whoa, you got a nice microphone."
He's zooming,
podcasting, babe.
He's zooming. You know, if somebody's a podcaster when they have a nice microphone.
I was going to say, you guys are more confident than I am. I hide this thing anytime I'm not in this show because I don't want to stunt on people like that.
We're nerds.
That is Paris Martineau, Consumer Reports investigative journalist par excellence.
I will not be here for the rest of the show whenever this is airing, but I'm here now for this interview.
Okay. Yeah, I should mention we're pre-recording this on Labor Day because Karen Hao, our very special guest, is in Hong Kong. I don't know what that has to do with anything, actually, because she's very busy.
She's got a incredibly busy book tour schedule because this is a fantastic book that she wrote, and despite the fact that it came out how long ago now, Karen?
It came out
your
in
schedule
May.
just keeps getting busier and busier.
She has done hundreds of interviews, and she has hundreds more before she sleeps. She'll be going to Australia in a couple of days, Santa Clara, Berkeley, Amsterdam. That's in the Netherlands, kids. New York, Chicago, St. Louis. Oh my gosh, look at this. Bangalore. She's going to meet up with Jeff in München. Karen Hao is the author of a book that is getting a lot of attention called Empire of AI. You may have read her articles about OpenAI in the MIT Technology Review, where she is a senior editor covering AI. Formerly, I guess, a senior editor.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's too busy now to have a job. Anyway. No, her job is, the book. Anyway, Karen, it's great to have you. Welcome to Intelligent Machines.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for doing this.
All three. Well,
every day.
We're very excited because all three of us have read the book and have learned a lot about what is a surprisingly secretive organization. How did you get in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, back when I first profiled OpenAI, I embedded within the company for 3 days in 2019 and then published the profile in 2020. They invited me in because they were quite different than they are now in that they were still trying to hold on to their original conception as a nonprofit and trying to project transparency. And so I, at the time, was really curious to just understand what they were working on and what was going on, because there were a series of changes that were happening in 2019 that piqued my interest. One of them being that they had just developed GPT-2 a couple generations before ChatGPT. Sam Altman just officially became CEO and they got $1 billion from Microsoft. And I just told OpenAI, it feels like there's a lot going on, and you might want to consider reintroducing yourself to the public. And I think MIT Tech Review could be a really great publication for doing so, because we focus a lot on what you focus on, which is the fundamental research that's happening within the field. So we can talk more in depth about some of the scientific and technical concepts that you're working on. And they really liked that idea. So they brought me in.
They changed their mind instantly, didn't they?
They didn't change it instantly, but they
almost instantly regretted it.
You know, security guards kind of playing relay and doing interference while you were there.
They did. Yeah. So I learned while I was reporting the book, not when I was reporting the profile, that my face was given to the security guard as like look out for this person and make sure
this
he does not
pesky
come
journalist will be
unannounced.
poking around.
This is during your 3-day embedding?
Which was during my, so I was actually really surprised in hindsight that they were already nervous at that early, because I didn't really know what I was going to write about. Like, I was sort of just coming into the org really open-minded, thinking, let me just ask them lots of questions about what they think they're doing and try and see what's interesting. But apparently, I don't know what I did that kind of set off their concerns so early that made them give the security guard my face. But
you
one
were
of the things I
insufficiently
think
reverent.
Perhaps. One of the things I think is very interesting and that you do really well in the book is kind of show how there is this disconnect that is now fairly obvious now, but there's been this disconnect from the start with OpenAI between how they positioned the company to the public and how they acted in private. And I feel like one of the scenes you recount in the book, like during those 3 days you were embedded in 2019, is you just, like you just said, trying to ask the executives questions about how they view the company. And they seem to even kind of, fumble is the wrong word, but they had a hard time articulating
that's a pretty good word. Yeah, fumble. I mean, I remember, so I didn't actually write this in the book, but when I was re-listening to my interviews from that time to write the book, I'd forgotten that one of the first questions that I asked Greg Brockman, he paused for around 10 seconds. And it was a really basic question. I was like, I think I just asked, why are you spending billions of dollars building AGI? And then he gave me an answer. And then I was like, I don't fully know if that answered the question. Could you maybe say it a different way? And then he paused for like 10 seconds. And then Ilya went, I'll take this one. So they did really fumble with some basic questions. Like I was pretty surprised because I was like, wait a minute. I don't think I'm asking like the most generic questions here. Just articulate why you're doing what you do and what you're doing. And there was
that scene in the conference room was so telling, I thought. Where maybe it was just early days, maybe they weren't media trained yet, though I don't think it was that. I think they really were confused about what they were doing together. They were using highfalutin terms, and you asked them to define them, and they couldn't define them.
Yeah, I think what I realized is they had spent so much time only articulating what they were doing to other people, either in the AI world or in the tech world. So they had at least some kind of shared worldview or lingo around these things. So they didn't have to, I think they were used to defending themselves, but defending themselves to a specific audience, not to the public. Right. And so when I started asking them, okay, now explain to the public what you're doing, that was when it started tripping them up.
Do you think that they, inside OpenAI or inside the fraternity sorority of AI or cult, depending on how you look at it, do they have a shared definition of AGI?
No, that's the thing. Yeah,
that's what you started going after them for. And did you ever come away thinking that there is some commonality, or is it a vessel in which they put their own views?
I mean, that's the problem with the common definition is generally people would agree that AGI means human level intelligence in machines. But then no one agrees on what human intelligence is.
Right.
So the problem is not necessarily that there isn't a definition. The problem is that the definition is still meaningless because there is just no scientific consensus beyond the world of AI, just globally, across disciplines. There's no scientific consensus around how to quantify human intelligence. And in fact, the quantification of human intelligence has a very dark history and lots of ulterior motives for why people have sought to do that. And so I think OpenAI was very readily willing to acknowledge that AGI had a very squishy definition, but they didn't see that as a problem. Whereas I thought, well, if you don't have a clear direction of where you're going, it seems like that makes your foundations inherently a little bit weak, because you're supercharging a quest towards who knows where with billions of dollars. And to your point, it did become a vessel for people's own projections, systems of belief, because different people thought that human intelligence meant different things and that it would manifest in different ways, and its implications arriving at AGI would have fundamentally different implications for the world. And that's why through the course of OpenAI's history, there's just been so much infighting, because different ideological camps develop, splintering over these definitions, and then they start, biting at each other's heads, trying to get the company to go one way or another based on their views.
You arrived at a really seminal point. I mean, you arrived as the company. They've gone through many changes. They're still going through changes, but they had, originally formed. Sam Altman partnered with Elon Musk to kind of develop AI in an open fashion, so that Microsoft and Google, mostly Google, wouldn't have, dominance in the field. But by the time you got there, as you say, they raised a lot of money from Microsoft. Suddenly, they still don't have a really credible product. Even you talk about the demos that they did of the early GPTs and how trivial they were and how unimpressed people were. And Bill Gates was
funny.
What is this? But it was already starting to change. As you say, Sam had become CEO. They had raised money. They realized it was going to be a much more expensive process. They were at the point where they were starting to think differently about what they were doing. Would you say that's true?
This is interesting. So I have sort of changed my views about whether they evolved or whether actually they kind of stayed the same in terms of what they were doing. So initially I felt, okay, they're a nonprofit. They were trying to be more transparent, more collaborative. And then there was this shift, this inflection point when they suddenly get money and it starts moving them more in a profit-oriented direction. But now in hindsight, it was quite clear when they started that they wanted it to be a nonprofit, not necessarily just out of altruism, but still out of ego of we want to signal to the world that we're the good guys.
Right.
And we're going to continue on this quest to reshape and remold this technology. And so there was always this egotistical element to it. And there was this deep-seated desire of we need to get to where we're going first, wherever that is, in order to have some kind of field or industry defining impact, because they very much exist in an ecosystem and a belief system of winner takes all. That's just like how Silicon Valley operates. So in a sense, did they actually change when they got money, or did they actually always have the same belief that drove them to then seek money and then continue down, the natural course, the natural path that an egotistical project would lead you down? So I think over time I started to realize maybe they weren't so pure in the beginning, that there was already a little bit of corruption in the beginning in terms of their conception of why they were doing OpenAI, and that's what then plotted them down the path that we see today.
But as you tell the story, it did start to come to them that they were going to need massive amounts of compute and, of course, massive amounts of money. So they didn't know that from the beginning, or did they?
That's true. So they I don't think they fully realized the degree of money that they needed. I think there was some conception, at least from Ilya's side, that they would need to scale their systems to some degree. But interestingly, at the time, they probably couldn't even have conceived technically of the degree of scale that they now operate under, because it was not yet possible. Like, the techniques for training models on such vast amounts of computer chips had actually not been invented yet. And
they weren't yet even sure that transformers were the way to go, right? That was something they came to over time.
Yes, exactly. So they sort of hit upon both the software and the hardware that they wanted to use about a year and a half, 2 years into the organization. So they initially had more vague ideas of they wanted to scale the existing techniques to some degree, but they just didn't know which technique they wanted to scale and to what degree they wanted to scale. And when they realized, okay, and also Transformers, it took a while for, like, when Transformers came out, there were a couple of researchers who were like, yep, that's the one, like, we want to do that. But it did actually take the organization a little bit longer to go all in on the Transformers.
Sutskever was a believer from the very beginning, right?
Yeah, and that's it was.
He's a fascinating character in your book. He is. He's a prophet, not a coder, which is interesting.
What do you think of him? I'm really eager that here we are, just four people sitting at the end of the bar.
Don't pay attention to these mics.
In that case, I want a drink. I don't know.
Well, it's a little early for Karen right now. But the three main characters here, Sutskever, Brock, and Altman, I'd love to hear, in hindsight, how you look at them just for your own, who you'd want to be on an elevator with and not.
I think I would definitely want to be in an elevator with Sutskever.
Why?
I think he's the most interesting and complex of the three. I think Altman he's a politician. Like, that's the best way to think about him.
He comes off kind of skeezy in your book. He's kind of
he's really good at telling stories and being persuasive and getting people to. He persuades people to either donate gobs of money or to donate their talent towards whatever vision he wants to achieve, and he's very, very good at that. But the controversial aspect of him as a character is that he will tell different things to different people as part of his persuasion tactics. And so over time, depending on whether or not someone feels like what he said aligned ultimately with his actions, they either end up becoming really, really gung-ho about his leadership or feeling like he's the devil incarnate, like that somehow he manipulated them into doing something fundamentally different from what they wanted to achieve. So he's the politician. Brockman is interesting in that I think the way that I describe him in the book is like he sort of exudes this anxious energy of wanting to be remembered in history. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And everything that he does and says, you can kind of pick up that he's sort of doing it in part because he wants to be judged well in the eyes of history.
I mean, wasn't the line that I think you said attributed to him that he's like, no one ever remembers a CTO. I can't be a CTO forever.
Yeah, he says at this retreat in Tahoe, name a famous CTO, and people sort of fail to do it. Other than like Steve Wozniak, people sort of fail to do it. And then he proves the point that he was trying to make, like no one remembers a CTO. And then like a year later, he switches from CTO to the president of the company.
Let me ask the question another way. If you had a friend who was going to work at OpenAI and could report in the time when they were all there, and could report to any one of the three, who should they report to? Who's a good boss? Or mentor,
I would still say Sutskever.
Still Sutskever. Oh, interesting. But he's a little wacky too, isn't he?
He's the Shingy of OpenAI.
Yeah, no. I'm not saying that Sutskever is by any stretch of the imagination like an average guy.
Right.
I don't think any of them are average guys.
None of them are.
Yeah. Well, the thing about Sutskever that I think the way I would describe him is he's also a visionary like Altman. He does have he has very strong convictions, but whereas Altman is sort of he's not, his convictions aren't in the technical realm. Like he's thinking about like how to move resources and what kind of relationships to build to get to where they're going. Sutskever has always had a very keen scientific and technical conviction of he's like, I think we need to do this. Like from the beginning, I think we need to scale these models, and it's just a matter of figuring out which one to scale. So he has that kind of visionary aspect, and he's highly cerebral. And like many highly cerebral people, he's also a highly emotional person without realizing that he's highly emotional. Like he thinks that he actually makes decisions purely rationally, but actually he probably makes decisions almost entirely emotionally.
He's a first principles kind of guy.
Yeah, that's the way that I would describe it. So he often exists almost in a realm, in an intellectual realm that seems a little bit detached from reality. Like he's just like constantly thinking in his mind about different future possibilities and then trying to implement it in his scientific work. But when I interviewed people about, these three people and who was the best leader / manager, people would pretty universally say Sutskever. If they had to pick, they would have to pick Sutskever because Altman he's a terrible manager. And Altman has said himself, he's not a manager. Yeah. He is just the visionary. He's good at getting people, pointing to a direction and getting people to move there, but he cannot operationalize things. And you can see that with the way that OpenAI has been changing leadership recently. Like he installed a new CEO of applications, or OpenAI installed a new CEO of applications that's doing the actual operationalization, whereas Altman is continuing to do the fundraising. Right. And Brockman is also terrible manager. Like he's very bad at working with other people. He's very much a solo coder. And the way people described him was he kind of, going back to like, he has this anxious energy of wanting to prove himself in the eyes of history. He will just like relentlessly code and run towards a specific goalpost that you give him, but he won't look up from the coding to see if the goalpost has changed, whether they need to reevaluate where they're going. And people burn out when they work with him because they'll go to sleep and wake up and the entire code base has changed because Brockman has stayed up all night coding.
One of those.
And no one knows, people just can't keep up with like what he's doing. So it's just kind of impossible to work with him in general, not just work for him, which is why Brockman hasn't had reports at OpenAI since like maybe 2 years into the company. So then that just leaves Sutskever.
I hope you're enjoying this interview with Karen Hao. We recorded it on Labor Day a couple of days ago. That's why Paris is here. We'll continue with Intelligent Machines in just a bit. Harper Reed will be filling in for Paris in the rest of the show. But we have more with Karen, lots more to ask her and talk about in just a bit. So stay here. You're watching Intelligent Machines, our show today brought to you by ThreatLocker. Love these guys. ThreatLocker makes zero trust easy. Ransomware is killing businesses worldwide. You know that if you listen to our shows. But ThreatLocker can actually stand between you and the bad guys, prevent you from becoming the next victim. ThreatLocker's zero trust platform, and that's the key, takes a proactive deny by default approach. Those three words carry a lot of weight, but it really works. Deny by default. In other words, ThreatLocker blocks every action that you haven't explicitly authorized. And the beauty of that, it protects you from known threats, but it also protects you from completely unknown 0 days, threats you know nothing about because they get there and they can't do anything. That's why ThreatLocker is trusted by global enterprises like JetBlue, the Port of Vancouver. ThreatLocker shields you from 0-day exploits and supply chain attacks, and in the whole process provides you complete audit trails for compliance. So it's a fantastic solution. And we're seeing this more and more. We were talking about this yesterday on Security Now. Cyber criminals are turning to malvertising. Now you need more than just traditional security tools. How does it work? Attackers create convincing fake websites, impersonating popular brands like AI tools and software applications, distributed through social media ads, hijacked accounts. Then they use legitimate ad networks to deliver malware in the ads, affecting anyone who browses, even if they're browsing on a work system. That's why it's such a huge threat. Traditional security tools often completely miss these attacks because the attacks use fileless payloads. They run in memory. They exploit trusted services. They bypass filters, But that's why Zero Trust is so incredible. ThreatLocker's innovative ring fencing technology strengthens endpoint defense by controlling what applications and scripts can access or execute. Without permission, they can't do anything. It contains potential threats, even if those malicious ads successfully reach the device. ThreatLocker works across all industries. It supports PCs and Macs, provides 24/7 US-based support, and enables comprehensive visibility and control. Jack Senesap, who's director of IT infrastructure and security at Redner's Market, says, when it comes to ThreatLocker, the team stands by their product. ThreatLocker's onboarding phase was a very good experience, and they were very hands-on. ThreatLocker was able to help me and guide me, this is Jack speaking, to where I am in our environment today, end quote. Get unprecedented protection quickly, easily, and cost-effectively with ThreatLocker. Visit threatlocker.com/twit to get a free 30-day trial and learn more about how ThreatLocker can help mitigate unknown threats and ensure compliance. That's threatlocker.com/twit. And we thank them so much for their support of Intelligent Machines. Now, back to our interview. We're talking to Karen Hao. She's the author of a new book that just came out in the spring, but it is a huge bestseller called Empire of AI, Dreams and Nightmares in Sam Altman's OpenAI. And I didn't mention this, but Ms. Hao graduated from MIT with a master's in mechanical engineering. She coded at one of the first bachelors. All right, BS.
It's MIT.
Right.
It's
MIT.
You round up from MIT.
You round up.
It's a master's anywhere else.
Also, and was an engineer at one of the first Google X companies. So she's got a strong technical background as well as being an excellent writer, and it is a fascinating book. I have to say, though, starting from the very beginning and going all the way through, there is, even in the name, there is a element of real skepticism about AI. You call it empire of AI in the same way that, the imperialist nations conquered countries in the 19th and 20th century. It's an imperialist empire of AI. Are you not a fan? None of us can quite figure it out. We were talking before the show.
It's a superbly reported book.
Yeah, the reporting is so good.
Now that we're at the bar.
Yeah, back to the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, I'm not a fan, and I want to be clear. I'm not a fan of. I'm not a fan of the current industry and the paradigm that they've chosen for developing this technology. I'm not critiquing all of AI, because AI as a discipline and as a science is vast, and there are lots of different interesting things that are happening in that world, and there's a lot of really fascinating applications of it as well that I think are largely very beneficial. But in the current paradigm, what the AI industry is doing is the scale at all costs modus operandi, where they're taking these models, then they're saying we're going to pump historic amounts of data into these models, and we're going to train them on historically sized supercomputers. And we have gotten to the point now where we're talking about, like, they've already colloquially scraped the whole internet, mostly the English language internet. So they've already tapped out like an extraordinary amount of the data that has been produced by humans on the internet over the last couple decades. And they are now talking about building supercomputers the size of Manhattan that could potentially use the energy draw of all of Manhattan. So that is what I'm critical of. And that's what I call imperial like behavior. Is they're seizing resources that are not their own. They're literally starting to seize land all around the world to build these data centers and supercomputers. They exploit an extraordinary amount of labor, both in the production of the technology and the effect that the technology ends up having on society, in that it's creating automation pressure on the job market and therefore eroding away workers' bargaining rights. They monopolized knowledge production. So over the last 10 years, what we've seen is the AI industry is so resource rich that they have hired up all of the top AI researchers in the world, which means that AI research as a discipline is becoming distorted by the agenda of these companies, the same way that you could imagine climate science would be distorted by oil and gas companies if most climate scientists in the world were bankrolled by the fossil fuel industry. And so, and that is a primary feature of, empires of old, is that they controlled the knowledge, what was even acknowledged as knowledge. And the point was always to produce only the knowledge that continued to fortify the imperial expansion, not to undermine the empire. And then the last thing that I highlight in terms of parallels is the empires always engage in this existential competition narrative of there are evil empires in the world, so we must be an empire, but a good empire, in order to be strong enough to beat back the evil empire. And they quite literally engage in some of the, old religious rhetoric that was used in empire competition as well, of, as the good empire, we're bringing progress and modernity to all of humanity. So if we win, humanity gets to go to heaven. But if we lose and the evil empire wins, humanity goes to hell. And that's like they are literally using that kind of terminology, and it can't get more on the nose than that.
I think all of the points you just made are incredibly important, but I want to go back to this point you made about the monopolization of AI research. You get into this in the book, as well as you've spoken about this on various podcasts in your reporting. But I think how this trend towards commercialization that kind of began in 2010, 2013, how that has changed the sort of AI that is being built and kind of monopolized fields of AI research, taking it from being broad to being very specific. Can you talk a little bit about that and what we've, lost or are not funding?
When I started covering AI in 2017, 2018, there was so much interesting research that was happening in the field. And even then, people were already complaining that the diversity of research ideas had shrunk, because way back, there were, two dominant approaches: the data-driven deep learning approach, and then the symbolic-driven old-fashioned AI approach of encoding information in databases. And that branch, the symbolic branch, was already kind of dying on the vine, and most people were glomming onto the deep learning branch. So there was already some sadness within the fields that of the two major branches, one had almost entirely atrophied, and there was already a narrowing in the field and its focus. But within deep learning, there was so much fascinating stuff happening. Like, there was research around how to build deep learning systems that actually used teeny tiny amounts of data or teeny tiny amounts of computational resources, or like that neurosymbolic approaches that were trying to resuscitate some of the old symbolic approaches and combine them with deep learning approaches. And that was like part of my favorite part of my job, was just talking with researchers who had really interesting new ideas to try and push the bounds of what was possible with deep learning. And basically, when OpenAI came out with GPT-2 and then GPT-3, the rest of the industry started not only indexing on deep learning, but indexing on transformers, which is just one neural network architecture in the vast sea, the vast zoo of different types of neural networks. And that is like, I can't think of a good analogy of like how dramatically more narrow that is, but it's like you're taking an entire discipline and picking one horse, like out of 1,000, out of 1,000,000, I don't know. And basically after that, because all the researchers were moving out of academia and working at these companies, everyone was only working with transformers, and everyone was only trying to, like, their research has diminished down to, how do we optimize the transformer? Mm-hmm. How do we get this transformer to do just a little bit more with a little bit more data or a little bit more compute? And yeah, that's like so remarkably narrow. Maybe a good analogy is like they are all just reading one page of a book in an entire library.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or maybe like one sentence. Like they're just all trying to optimize a single sentence in an entire library.
Which is a shame because there's so much interesting and transformative research in this field, in a very, very broad field. It's a shame to have all of the capital and resources go to one sentence of one book.
It's
let me
super
play
sad.
devil's advocate, which is my favorite kind of advocacy. They thought, they seem to have thought, Sutskever and the others, that they had found, the philosopher's stone, that they had figured out that if the way to get to successful AGI and superintelligence is we just scale transformers. They're miraculous. They do it. They do more than we ever thought. They're miraculous. Yes, it's going to take every paperclip in the entire universe to make it happen, but that's the path. That's the road. And I can understand that from their point of view, they've seen the future, and any deviation is a dead end.
It's religion then.
Well,
it's not science,
and there are people like Gary Marcus, and we talked to Stephen Wolfram and others.
I love all the Gary Marcus details in your book about how much OpenAI hates Gary Marcus. It brings me
him
delight.
so happy.
But they've argued for, what about symbolic AI and other kinds of AI? But we've been through AI winners before, especially with symbolic AI. Transformers are pretty amazing. They're pretty miraculous.
They are a very fascinating piece of technology, and they have done things that
we could not have predicted. We
never imagined.
Yeah.
That said, one thing there's sort of two thoughts that I have. One is like in general, I think there were clear signs from the very beginning when they were scaling transformers that there were weaknesses to the transformer as well. So maybe you could argue in the beginning they were like, oh, let's just see what happens. But at some point, you have to start being critical of their decision to continue. Just let's see what happens when there was already so much.
They should have known better, you think?
Yeah. For sure. There was like plenty of research happening at the time that like deep learning, not just the transformer, just deep learning neural networks in general, do have all of these challenges when it comes to being generally robust and able to generalize. Like even with the entire internet poured into these transformers, you can still have, it's still really hard to say that they've actually generalized. I mean, the moment you start speaking another language to ChatGPT, it starts to break down. Like that's not exactly generalizability. And like, of course, there's like infinite examples of people like stress testing these chatbots with various brain teasers and math problems and whatever, and it still breaks down. And so it's like, to what degree, like how much more do you want to put into this approach and not explore other approaches when there's so much evidence, even from the beginning, that there are just certain limitations to what transformers will get you. But the other question that's, I think, more fundamental is, and I think this is perhaps a broader critique of just the general worldview of AI research in general, is that the AI discipline has long fixated on advancing and on achieving technical progress without necessarily having a specific reason for why they're doing that.
Yeah, because we can.
And the more that, I think when I first started covering AI, I was very enamored with the thought experiments that I think a lot of scientists in AI research are enamored with, which is like, can machines think?
Right.
Can we really, it would just be remarkable from a scientific and technical achievement if you could actually recreate intelligence in computers. But the more that I've covered it and the more that I've watched the industry play out the way that it has, the more I've felt that actually these aggressive moves by the industry to just continue trying to advance AI with blinkers on for what it's actually doing to the world is actually kind of derivative of this mentality of let's just keep pushing for pure science rather than actually like pushing for innovation for humanity, like actually looking at what are the challenges we need to solve and being more targeted about how to develop AI to tackle those types of problems. And so, yeah, that's my other, I guess, response to like, should we give them some credit for seeing Transformers and just like indexing on this approach? It's like, well, I mean, they didn't really have a clear idea of what were they actually trying to help humanity overcome with Transformers? Like, they never really had a clear idea of that. Mm-hmm. And if they had, then they would have also tested out a lot of other different approaches, because there are just much more efficient approaches for certain types of things.
So I think
let me just follow up, and then you guys. When you were at the Wall Street Journal, you covered China. You're in China you're in Hong Kong right now, and of course that's the straw man that they're all using to say, well, we've got to do this, because if we don't, the Chinese are going to eat our lunch. Is that true?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah. So what I was saying about the existential competition between good versus evil empires, yeah. So China is conceived of as the evil empire in this narrative. And what I always say is, I mean, literally look at the track record that this argument has gotten us. Silicon Valley has said, if you do not regulate us and then you regulate China through export controls, then China's progress will be totally obliterated and the US will dominate, and we will successfully widen the gap between US and Chinese AI. And Silicon Valley will have a liberalizing force on the world, and we will see democracy strengthen everywhere, and it'll be amazing. And literally the opposite has happened. Like, you could not write the story to be more oppositional to that argument, right? Like, the gap has actually shrunk dramatically between the US and China as Washington has implemented exactly this approach. And Silicon Valley has had an illiberalizing force around the world, and democracies are capitulating everywhere, and like the US itself is capitulating as a democracy. So at that point, like, you just have to look at the evidence and say, okay, clearly this argument, like, the only winner in this scenario was Silicon Valley. So at the end of the day, it is a self-serving argument.
Totally. I read a lot of books, tech journalism books based on my job, or just keeping abreast of the general industry. And most of them are not very good, is what I've realized. Or I guess a lot of them are fine or good. And I was astounded by, just how fantastic on every level your book was. And I was talking to Leo and Jeff before the show, and I feel like one of the things that always sticks out to me when you read like a really well done journalism book is you are quite adept at showing rather than telling throughout the book, and of like complicated details and factors, and kind of weaving it all in through your narrative based on reporting. And I do think this is one of the reasons why, some context for listeners, is around the time that Karen's book came out, a number of other OpenAI books came out. I don't know if were there two others at the exact same time, or was it three? Do you recall?
There was one on the same day. Yeah.
There was one on the same day, and there was like a couple of other, like, then there was also Sam Altman tweeting at the same. It was kind of a crowded field, but Karen's immediately stood out from the pack. My own small anecdote. I remember like the week I think it came out, I was trying to get a copy at my bookstore, and I like asked the person at the front desk in a bookstore here in New York, and they were like, "Oh no, that's sold out. Everybody's coming in for it." And I think it's because you did such a great job reporting this out, and then also reporting out the sort of details and scenes to really tell this story and to really show it too. What could you talk us through a little bit of what your reporting process was like for this, and how you got so many in the room details?
Yeah. First of all, thank you. I really appreciate it, because I was actually quite conflicted while I was writing it, like how much I should show versus tell. And sometimes I felt like I spent too much time showing rather than telling. And I was like, maybe people actually want me to just like say exactly what it is.
It's the essential dilemma. I feel like you always hear from editors as a journalist. It's like, which one should I be doing? And they're always like, show. And you're like, I don't know. Don't you just want them to hear the thing?
Yeah, just like get the message. Yeah. And like some people have mentioned that my book is like really long. It's really long. And like part of it is because I spend so much time showing rather than telling. But I appreciate that you appreciated that. In terms of the reporting process, I basically so when I first started working on the book, Sam Altman had not yet been fired and rehired. That was, I did not know that was going to happen, and when it did, it fundamentally changed my conception of the book.
Yeah.
So before that happened, I was actually not really planning on focusing on a lot of insider details within the company. I wanted to use OpenAI as a main character, just like externally looking at like what they had done and the ripple effects that it had on industry based on the reporting that I had already done, and maybe have just like a couple insider moments like when I was at the company and what I learned when I was there and so on. But then once the board crisis happened, it totally changed my reporting plan, and I realized that I actually just needed to report out the full inside story of what had happened and ultimately what had led to that point.
That was your scoop. No one else has covered that so well. I mean, that was really the big scoop.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I basically just made a giant spreadsheet of everyone that had ever worked at OpenAI. And I just started cold contacting as many of them as possible.
Hundreds of interviews.
Yeah. And initially I thought that no one would respond to me because I had sort of been marked from the very beginning by OpenAI as like the journalist.
We have your picture, Ms. Hao.
Yeah.
And it turned out that actually a lot of people were really interested in talking to me for precisely that reason.
Yeah.
Because many people, so the company executives, or I guess the official company position on my MIT Tech Review profile was that it was horrible. It completely misrepresented the organization. I had an agenda. And many of the people that I interviewed were like, oh, the reason why I picked up your call is because I really liked your profile. I thought it was super accurate.
Yeah.
And so
the company kind of made the mistake of sending out an email about your piece, which I feel like always does more harm than good, despite the fact that sorry.
They had sent out multiple emails. So Sam wasn't the only one that emailed and suddenly made everyone aware. There were actually multiple emails. When I came, they were like, she's coming, like, be on your best behavior. And then there was another email right before my piece published being like, the piece is coming out tomorrow. We think it'll be a good one. There might be some things that we don't like. And then there was Sam's email after being like, this was bad.
Wow. So you were very present. I mean, it was a great intro for all of the employees of OpenAI to you.
Yeah, it is true. So there were a number of employees that were like, oh, yeah, I know you. Like, I would be happy to talk to you because I think you will do a really good job of accurately portraying this organization and getting beyond what the company narrative is. A lot of the people who talked to me were quite concerned about making sure that the record of what happened was not being portrayed the way that, the official company narrative wanted it to be portrayed, because they were like, that's just not reality. And they wanted to have some more high fidelity version that existed as the historical record. And interestingly, like a lot of people also were driven to talk because they felt that they had witnessed history. So there was an element of hubris in it as well, of like, and many of them had actually taken detailed notes during their time at OpenAI, because they would talk to one another being like, we think we're witnessing history. We should probably document what we're seeing, which is part of the reason also why I was able to get so many like scenic details and things that people said, because there were people who pulled out their notes from all of these different meetings.
Wow.
And
God bless them.
Yeah. And
so I want to second Paris. It's a superbly reported book and really impressive. I'm curious. I have one more question, but I'm going to cheat and make it a two-parter. I'm very curious what you thought as ChatGPT 5 was coming out, knowing all that you know about the company and how that was handled. And the second part of that is that there are some who are saying there's a pullback even from Altman. Less emphasis on AGI, less emphasis on the mystical future. And so I'm curious, first, what your thoughts were at a tactical level about the ChatGPT 5 release, and second, whether you buy AGI.
I guess I'll answer the second one first, which is I don't, because of the lack of definitional clarity. I mean, if we narrowly defined human intelligence and just said it was like systems that are really good at persuading people, maybe, like, if we made that definition, then be like, oh yeah, we've already reached AGI, like these systems are extremely persuasive. But yeah, I don't really buy into the way, like, ultimately, I think to understand AGI, the concept, it should be understood as a rhetorical tool for these companies to just continue waving around a nebulous term that they can project whatever meaning they need onto, so that they can continue justifying why they need more and more and more and more resources. And the first question,
GPT-5.
I think I sort of had a couple thoughts. One was, I wondered whether it would actually come out because GPT-5's development has been so troubled within the company that I was like, maybe they actually scrapped the release because it's just not meeting the bar. And the other thing that I thought was, if it does come out, I wonder what kinds of demos they're going to do to try and really make a splash, because OpenAI is sort of the master of splashy demos. That's their entire history has been about figuring out how to engineer the most impressive demo based on faulty technology. And yeah, when it came out and it wasn't received very well, I wasn't surprised because there had been so much concern already within the organization that they were running out of rope when it came to their specific scaling paradigm.
Interesting.
We've been talking to Karen Hao. She's the author of a book, came out this spring, but it is still a bestseller called, it's very hot, Empire of AI. It is, of course, a history of OpenAI, and fascinating, lots of fascinating details. But it also has a moral to tell, a story to tell. In fact, I'm going to quote you from the essay you wrote this spring in the New York Times. This last paragraph, I think, kind of puts a ribbon on it. AI tools, Karen wrote, that help everyone cannot arise from a vision of development that demands the capitulation of a majority to the self-serving agenda of a few. Transitioning to a more equitable and sustainable AI future won't be easy. It will require everyone, journalists, civil society, researchers, policymakers, citizens, to push back against the tech giants, produce thoughtful government regulation wherever possible, and invest in more smaller-scale AI technologies. When people rise, empires fall. And I don't know if I'm putting words in your mouth, but you wrote them, so I guess it's fair to do that. Karen, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I know you're about to continue a murderous schedule of tour dates. In fact, if people want to know where you can see Ms. Hao speak, go to her website, KarenHao.com, and you'll be amazed.
KarenDHao.com.
Sorry, let's put the D in there. Karen D. Hao. Some other Karen Hao has the other one.
I know.
Dang that.
How rude of her.
Yeah. Karen D. Hao. Karen Hao. No, KarenDHao.com. You can see all the places she's going to be. Go see her. Buy tickets. Buy the book. And read the book, because I think it is an important story for us all to understand much better. Thank you, Karen D. Hao, for joining us on Intelligent Machines.
Thank you so much for having me.
Really appreciate it. Thank you, Karen Hao. We're going to let Paris go to Yonkers right now. She is in Yonkers, but I'm thrilled to say Harper Reed will be joining us, an AI expert himself. He has an AI company and is the king of vibe coding. We've talked to him before. We'll get to the other AI stories and other stories with Jeff and Harper Reed, our guest co-host, I guess, in just a minute. Before we do, though, I want to talk about our sponsor, Monarch Money. Do you want to feel organized and confident in your finances? Most people, try this, see if you can't name all their financial accounts, or even harder, what they're worth. If you don't know, if you've been putting it off, then Monarch is for you. This is what I use, and I love it. Monarch is the all-in-one personal finance tool that combines your entire financial life into one clean interface on your laptop, on your phone. It's on the web. They've got apps. It's built for people with busy lives. Monarch does all the heavy lifting. You link your accounts. It can do it in minutes, securely and safely. And then Monarch will stay connected and get clear information. It'll present you with data, visuals, beautiful graphs. It'll automatically do smart categorization of your spending. It does the budgeting for me. You get real control over your money. You don't need to ever touch a spreadsheet again or pull out a statement from the bank and enter in the data. Remember we used to do that? Not anymore. Monarch Money makes it so simple. And you know what? The easier it is to keep an eye on what's going on in your finances, the better a job you'll do. Don't leave money on the table. It's easy to become complacent. You know, you're young, you're getting a good salary. You don't need to track every dollar, but ignoring your finances entirely can cost you. Take it from me. When you get older, it's really important that you save properly. You put some money aside for retirement or you know, whatever your dreams are, getting married, buying a house. You can miss opportunities to save more, to invest smarter, to hit your financial goals faster. Information is power. Monarch's not just another finance app. It's a tool real professionals and experts love. And I use it every single day to see where I stand. It was named the best budgeting app of 2025 by the Wall Street Journal. Forbes said it's the best app for couples. It was named in CNBC's top fintech companies in the world list. And there is a passionate Reddit community of over 34,000 users. And they're not just there to help themselves. I got to tell you, Monarch Money listens to them. They actually, in that Reddit community, they get to shape how the product is developed. Money can be the number one reason couples break up, but it can also bring them together if you use Monarch. Monarch brings people together. Monarch gives your partner full access to your shared dashboard, including linked accounts, budgets, goals, and spending activity all in one place at no extra cost. You can also give your financial advisor access, and that doesn't cost you extra either. Get some good financial advice without taking the time to collate all the information for them. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use our code IM at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year. Go to monarchmoney.com and use the code IM. Highly recommend it. monarchmoney.com. Don't forget that code, by the way, IM. All right. Welcome, Harper Reed. Great to see you, my friend. Harper Reed is an AI genius at 2389.ai. He's an entrepreneur, a hacker, a technologist. His blog is great reading. In fact, that's how we've had Harper on many times in the past, but I reconnected with you after your blog post on how you vibe code. In fact, it's become kind of how I vibe. Has that changed at all?
I introduced a new thing recently of having it do what they call a careful review of its code after it writes one of the steps. And I don't think it is a longer process. This is my favorite image, by the way. I'm very proud of that image.
Nighttime code gen, only vibes.
Yeah. But what I found is that
this is the piece that I read it back in May, right? I think. Or
yeah,
no.
And I just found that there was so much work that was happening, and that people talk about it as, oh, it's good up until the 90% or whatever. And so I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to do that. And I just have another process that is like, review your code. That's basically what it is. But
I mean, manually review it or use Claude to review it? You do it with Claude?
I don't do any work. Are you talking manually? What is this? 2008? Let me see if I can just read this prompt to you, because I think it will be it'll be helpful. But it is it's called Careful Review, and it says, great, now I want you to carefully read over all of the new code you just wrote and other existing code you just modified with quote, fresh eyes, unquote, looking super carefully for any obvious bugs, errors, problems, issues, confusion, etc. And that's all it is. And it works pretty well for finding things that then would have popped up.
How often? What is there a rate of what it finds?
I don't know if there's a rate. Sometimes it's very funny because it's like, yep, found a bunch of stuff. I'm like, okay, so what are we going to do about that? Oh, I'll fix it. Other times it'll just say like, nope, everything is great. And there's this funny thing that I love. Claude Code now ships with the ability to install itself on your GitHub and do code reviews of all your pull requests. But it's funny to have Claude Code build something and then have Claude Code review that same thing, because it's like, yep, no bugs here. This is perfect code. Whoever wrote this is a genius. And you're like, yeah. I know how this goes.
I use Claude Code after we talked to review. I was having trouble. I was doing an Advent of Code problem, and I was having trouble, and I couldn't figure it out. My sample code, my tests worked, but I just on the final input it wouldn't work. And Darren Oakey, one of our club members, said, "Well, why don't you ask Claude?" And so and I did, and I gave it access to the GitHub, and it said, "Yeah, you dummy." You're not importing the entire input. You're breaking it off at the end of a line. And I went, oh, That was a very helpful thing. I mean, I could have showed it to you, Harper. You would have probably said the same thing. It's like having extra eyes. I think it's a great thing to use it to review stuff. In your article, did I miss this? Is this a new article? This basic Claude Code?
Well, I think the one you saw was the one of like my LLM coding workflow, and I've written a couple subsequent ones. This one is specifically about how I use Claude Code, because I found, and then there's another one that people seem to like, which was about the hero's journey of these things.
Yes.
Because I think everyone kind of goes through the same experience of starting with like a Copilot and then moving towards cursor, and eventually trying to be as agentic as possible. This is another perfect photo of me.
This is, by the way, not AI generated. Harvard does look like that.
This is what I look like every day, and I'm happy to have friends. Thankful even. I was a rainbow for a costume contest,
and you, I hope, won, because you are a rainbow. I tell you.
Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of this, like there's a lot of what I'm finding is people have the same path, it seems, for going down this stuff. And there's small communities that are sharing. Of course, there's a lot on Twitter. There's a lot of group chats. There's a lot of this stuff. It's all kind of surfacing around this. And so I just tried to document what I saw as that path. And then I started talking to more people, and I just noticed everyone was using Claude Code. And we were being very productive with it. So I documented kind of our experience there.
Has ChatGPT 5 changed your opinion? Are you still using Claude?
Interesting that you would ask me that on today of all days, Leo, because I have played with Codex a bunch in the last 2 days.
That's OpenAI's command.
That's OpenAI's. And I am impressed with it, but there's some funny nuances that obviously we know between the two models. I still think my daily driver is Claude Code. It just seems to work a little better and more consistently. We talk a lot about, how we want things to have an expected outcome, right? You expect a computer to work 2 + 2 = 4. These things obviously are not that way. There's a lot of randomness that goes into them. If you asked it the same task twice, the outcome would be very different. It's very funny in that regard. I find that for whatever reason, my vibe with Claude Code is good. With Codex, it seems a little forced. But what I'm finding is that it is doing very good at debugging some things that Claude Code was running into. And for the longest time in the beginning, which was a year ago, in the beginning of CodeGen with AI, I was bouncing across all the models. You'd start here, you'd do a little bit, you'd run into a problem, you'd go over to ChatGPT, you'd run into a problem, you'd go to Gemini, so on and so forth. Then we solidified for about 8 months on Claude Code, and I think we're back to the bouncing around models again. I think this is going to be just the cycle.
Yeah. At the end of your most recent piece, this one's from May. One of the things Claude Code does, the very first thing it does with the init command is create a markdown document that is really its instructions, its prompts to itself about how you work, a lot of information. And you stole this is the claude.md file, and there's one in every project root directory. You stole one from your friend Jesse Vincent, who, among other things, says, when you think of me, think of me as your colleague, Dr. Biz. Oh, this is you.
So this is me. So basically, Jesse
Harper
had this
or
really,
Harp Dog.
this really robust Claude MD that I edited quite a bit, and that's a really funny one. The reason why you have it call you a nickname and not your real name, but a nickname, is because it's a good delineation of when the Claude Code will lose its context. So it will call me Dr. Biz, but the moment it calls me Harper, you know that it's lost the plot, and you just got to quit and start over.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
You talk about a guy named C. Lint who could figured his Claude MD to call him Mr. Beef.
Yeah, this was where I was like, I really need to be more creative with my names, because this is very funny, because then it'll start. You'll see like a GitHub issue that's like, yeah, Mr. Beef told me to do this, and I'm like, who? Oh, right, Clint. What's up, Clint? It's
Clint Ecker. That's hysterical. Yeah, it's amazing. I was able to use ChatGPT 5, not Codex, but just the chat client, to write some JavaScript for me that I found very useful. We talked about it a little while ago. It really is.
It's very good.
It's just fascinating. And at the same time, people are talking all the time about, we have guests on all the time. In fact, earlier today, you weren't here for the Karen Hao interview, but she really is concerned that these companies, these giant companies, are imperialists. They're taking over the world. That they're taking over third world nations and abusing their labor force. They're taking over our electricity and water, building giant polluting network operations centers all over the world. And
they are hungry. They are hungry, and I think the imperialist framing is a good one, because they are hungry like a conquistador is hungry. They are, and
there's never enough.
That's the thing, is that's the thing about someone who is conquering, right? When it is zero sum. I think there's this other thing. I loved her book, by the way. I thought it was great. And it's always weird to read about people you know. That's always a strange thing. But it's a great book. I really enjoyed it. Highly recommend it. But there's this thing that I think is funny about this, which is that you see this all the time. Anytime you talk to someone who's using LLMs a lot, they're bouncing from model to model to model, which means that they're not unique. I mean, there's obviously some uniqueness, but they've kind of they're
leapfrogging each other.
Well, it's not even that as much as it's like Coke, Pepsi, and RC Cola, and then you have the Costco Cola, and it's commodified, right? And so you have this thing where that must be a real pain in the ass, where you're sitting there and you're like, oh, we accidentally invented magic, but then they also invented magic, and they also invented magic, and they also invented magic. It's the same magic. It is indecipherable from one another. Like, everyone's mom is like, oh, I love talking to ChatGPT, and the Googler's like, no, it's Gemini, mom. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing. Everyone's using it. They're calling it. They're miscalling it. They're miscommunicating with it. And so they're going to have to lean into more and more and more features that will drag and keep people on these things, because they have to uncommoditize their experience and get the users to stick. And so I think that must be really frustrating.
Or is that uniqueness going to come at for most people at an application layer instead of the model?
Oh, I think so, 100%. I mean, I think that's why you see Anthropic with Claude Code, or you see ChatGPT with Codex, or just launching agent mode, or all of these things that are trying to get something that's a little more sticky. I, as a consumer, appreciate it because I get to use all of these wonderful things. But I also, at this point, I'm paying, I don't know, $600 a month for LLMs or whatever. I'm just like, sure, I'll pay for your max plan. Like, of course I would love the access to that. And then
you canceled any of them, Harper?
I canceled Perplexity, and I felt bad because I liked Perplexity a lot. I really was using it quite a bit, and then it just became irrelevant within my bookmarks. As I have a very specific, I treat my bookmarks like my home screen on my phone. If I don't use the app, it's gone. I just remove it from that place because of why I have it there. And so I have these bookmarks. And right now it's like Gmail, which I'm mad about, Google Calendar, which I'm mad about, Blue Sky, which I barely check, and then ChatGPT and Claude. And maybe Gemini could go up there, maybe, because I've been using it quite a bit, but not quite yet. But it used to be Perplexity. There's a hole right there missing for Perplexity. And I used it a lot. I really liked their shopping stuff. I think the team is really, really smart. I just stopped using it. And so I and of course I always am like, I'll pay for a year, so I probably still have access to it.
That's exactly what I did. I don't lose access till next March, but exactly. Unfortunately, but I've started to feel like also they maybe were a little slimy. No?
Oh yeah, I think the team is a lot of people who are very good at growth. Which when you read about the famous books about Facebook or Twitter, like the scariest people are the people who are good at growth. They're the ones that are trying to grow over ethics, etc. And I think that Perplexity's very good. I like how kind of bombacious the founder is, when he did the bid for TikTok or what have you. Like, I love that. I think we need more of that isn't just the same 5 people. I like having a new person in that.
That's true. That's a good point.
But I don't.
It's not that Sam Altman is not slimy by any means.
Right. And all of these guys, for the most part, especially when you're so young and graduate into such wealth so quickly and, are addicted to power, I think it can hurt your insides. So I think they all have complicated motivations. Not like I have clear motivations or clean motivations, but I also don't have billions of dollars. So, I'm waiting to see what those motivations are like. Maybe next week.
One of the things Jeff and Anthony have been talking about in this regard is that maybe the hope for AI and the future of AI doesn't lie with these giants, these imperialists, but lies with smaller open source models, creative, clever solutions. I don't know if DeepSeek qualifies there, but it certainly opened our eyes to that. Right? I think what we have right now, and this is probably, I think, the most complicated topic that exists. Like, I think what that great Empire of AI book, as that's called, I think, is so good. Talks about the kind of the global impacts of this with all of the people looking at the data, et cetera. But I think there's even a bigger issue, which is the West seems to be choosing closed models and the rest of the world is choosing open models. Yep. And I don't think we're ready for the open source movement that we are so proud of, that created Google, created Facebook, created all opportunities for all these companies to be shifted to a different power base that has different ethics and different priorities. And I think that's something that is very complicated. I don't think we have addressed enough. Something that's very interesting to look at, a lot of people have been talking over the last couple of weeks about how the US needs a new AI kind of program that allows us to remain competitive within the world sphere, as there's so much investment in China and elsewhere. But it's you can't have that conversation without looking directly at our policies that stopped a lot of these very smart people from China being able to study at our schools starting in 2016 with the stopping of all of those student visas, et cetera. When you look at the deep, the deep mind, not deep mind, what is it called? What the Chinese model? I forgot.
DeepSeek.
DeepSeek. I almost stroked out there. But DeepSeek, when you look at DeepSeek,
Harper Dog. Yeah.
Harper Dog. Oh, Dr. Biz. I prefer Dr. Biz. Biz. But when you look at the DeepSeek, their team are a bunch of people that graduated from Peking University. Which of people of that age, those people probably would have gone to a Harvard or an MIT or a Stanford, and then they would have started companies here in the United States. They would have, raised venture dollars, and we didn't even get them a chance to come in. And so many of those people stayed in China, and they are creating innovation in China, which is a new story. This is a new phenomenon. Yes. And I think this is something that we can't talk about the open versus closed, or we can't talk about having small models when all of the good small models are Chinese, across the board. And that's, I think we're going to have some,
and DeepSeek.
Yeah, and they're great. Like, they're very good. And that's I don't say this lightly. I think that's an existential problem we're going to have to really think
isn't it healthy for the world, though, that we get that diversity?
I think it can be. It can be.
I put up a paper in Line 108, as I'm reading archive papers now, about should LLMs be weird? That is to say, Western educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic.
Oh, that's a good acronym. Weird.
Oh, it's a great one. Yeah, weird. Yeah. And so they took a bunch of models and then they compared outputs to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and other things against standards elsewhere in the world. And, they found that, for example, some models agreed with such statements as a man who cannot father children is not a real man. A husband should always know where his wife is, reflecting local cultural representations. And I don't think we've begun to get our heads around this. And we're still having this I think, silly talk about aligning the models with human values as if all human values can be.
But they're weird values. They're weird values.
That's exactly the problem. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So even if you think you're doing that, which is hubris of its own sort, to think that you know what human values are and you can encode them all in an algorithm and keep the machine to enforce them, that's bad enough. But the values you're supposedly using are tunnel visioned. So I think the fact that China is building models because we screwed it up and kicked students out and didn't give them chips may end up being better for the world. And China's not exactly, a bucket of roses. I'm not trying to say that.
That's the problem. I would like to see a Nigerian model, and I would like to see an Indian model. And
I think you will, but I think the question is, are they going to be trained on NVIDIA chips or Huawei chips?
Yep.
Right. That's so then you start to think of who has the power base, right? Who has the data center? Because if an NVIDIA chip is only accessible to companies that are in the United States or Europe, and like I have friends in Asia who have trained large language models, giant models, and they used Huawei chips.
Were they good? Were they all right?
I mean, they were like, it is not as good as NVIDIA, but they were accessible and they were inexpensive and they were able to train their model on it. And the model is very good.
And they probably didn't have a kill switch.
I don't know. I don't really think about kill switches. I hope everything has kill switches.
Do you have any idea what the cost differential was, Harper? Just
I don't know, but let me see if I can ask real quick. I can maybe even just get that really real time.
Perplexity would probably know.
Did they? Yeah, teasing
you know what I started using, Harper, after we had the CEO of Kagi on, is Kagi Assistant.
I use Kagi.
Well, if you're already paying for Kagi Assistant is the same kind of router orchestration model that Perplexity was, except you have a vast number of models you can choose from, including QN and DeepSeek. And I've really been very happy with it. It does really teach me, as Perplexity did, I guess, if I'd been paying attention, that there are really different layers. You've got an LLM layer, presumably with some sort of post-training. But on top of that, you have a search. Now you have a web search layer providing the RAG, the data. And it seems to be when I'm using Kagi, because you can see which model you're using, it doesn't really matter that much which LLM you're using. The RAG is what really is determining the result you're going to get.
I really like that search engine.
Yeah, Kagi's fantastic. That brings us to our other story, which isn't really an AI story, but I think we have to bring it up. Yesterday, Judge Mehta made his decision on the penalty phase in the Google antitrust case, the case the Department of Justice brought against Google. August of last year, Judge Mehta, Ahmed Mehta, said Google was a monopolist. We're going to take him down. And he took literally a year to decide on what the penalties should be. The Department of Justice asked for a number of severe penalties, including selling Chrome. That's where that Perplexity bid came from. There were a number of bids, including my favorite, which was from Ecosia, which was, we'll pay you nothing, but we'll run a foundation for Chrome so that Chrome will be truly open source and available to all and unbiased, which I thought maybe that would be something Judge Mehta would like to do. He didn't. The Department of Justice said, well, make them sell Android or make them give their search index to anybody who wants it. The judge basically gave the Department of Justice nothing. In fact, I think the market certainly felt this was a big win for Google. They went up 8%.
Google up almost 9%.
9% now.
And Apple
went up
3.5%.
Because the judge also said, we're not going to stop Google from paying Apple, Mozilla, and Samsung those huge fees to be the default search. Because A, I don't think it's part of the monopoly, which shocked me. And B, it would be damaging. It certainly would have put Mozilla out of business.
Yep.
In fact, all the judge required is that there be a 5-person panel kind of a ombudsman watching over Google for the next 6 years to make sure that they didn't do anything bad, and that Google could no longer require exclusivity from companies that wanted to use the Play Store. They couldn't say, okay, but you have to use Chrome and you have to make Chrome the default search. The judge said you can no longer do that. Everything else.
Well, they also have to share some data, but I haven't seen anything.
Oh yeah, some small amount of data
about what it is, and I wonder whether that helps every other AI company.
Well, I think it definitely is going to help everyone who is trying to make money off of search data. Because
there's that.
Because if I was a hedge fund or a prop house or one of these kind of big finance companies, I would suddenly be starting a search engine or whatever the requirement is to get the data.
Oh.
Like it's very cheap. Yeah. This is the thing about DeepSeek I think a lot of people kind of missed was it seemed like it was a side project of a big hedge fund.
Oh, a Chinese hedge fund?
Yeah, which is cool, great. That's good. I mean, I'm sure it's now spun off and whatnot, but they all worked for some quant fund.
Huh. Oh, so they were trying to create something that could invest for them?
I don't know. They might have just had a boatload of GPUs and we're like, well, we're bored. We have a bunch of smart people here. This seems really cool. And I mean, obviously they did a very good job. And and not to go back to China, but these companies, when they are releasing these models, they oftentimes couple it with a very large set of papers that talk all about how they built the model, which is completely the opposite of what an OpenAI, et cetera, does.
They were very open about it. Yeah.
But I'm very interested to see how the various capitalism focused people interpret this as we can now use this Google data that Google's required to share to further our own, quant whatever requirements.
I've got to go back to our friend at Common Crawl, Rich Skrenta, because I think it's interesting to say, does this augment what Common Crawl does? Can Common Crawl use it itself? But Leo, I think the most important thing about the decision was the judge recognizing that Google has plenty of competition because of AI.
Yeah, in effect, he said in the intervening year since I made my initial very harsh judgment
it was true
that Google
then
was a monopoly.
When he made that decision, but he learned more.
But AI has become a competitor.
Yeah.
So Google will have to share, this is from the Wall Street Journal, some search data to give competitors a shot at building the scale they need to offer better search results. Meta said data sharing was necessary to dilute the advantages Google gets from paying to be the default search engine. It did not require the company to share advertising data. Remember, there is another case ongoing in which Google...
On advertising, right?
On advertising. And that, frankly, Google really does need to be penalized.
That's where I've always said that they're vulnerable.
Yeah.
Let's stay on this for a minute. I'm curious, if you were in strategy at Google, do you appeal or do you say, take the win?
I think the first thing that happened is a bunch of lawyers sitting around a table started giggling giddily.
And you heard champagne corks popping.
Yeah, saying we won. And then they said, but, do we really want this committee of 5 looking over our shoulders?
Do we want to be called a monopoly?
Do we want to be? Now, they haven't decided whether they're going to appeal. Initially, the initial story from CNBC said they were, but now I don't see that anymore. And I don't think Google has decided. There's a risk if they appeal, it could go against them, too.
It could get worse, right?
I think you take the win, to be honest.
I think you take the win. I also think Google is so scared of this interaction with anything of interaction from a regulatory standpoint, et cetera, that they want to go under the rock and not come out around this stuff. And the fact that the previous thing we talked about was Kagi, an alt search engine that most people I know are using, I do think that things have changed quite a bit since Google was a relevant organization from this. That doesn't mean that they're not still used by everyone. Of course they are, but I don't think it's as clear cut as it was even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
One of the things the Department of Justice asked for is a choice screen so that people could choose on their smartphone if they wanted to use Google. The judge says that goes too far and intrudes into product design, a red line that courts shouldn't cross, which is, by the way, very different from the EU's point of view, which is we can do anything we want. They've had browser ballots for years in the EU. I think, I was kind of shocked. Paul Thurrott on our Windows Weekly show earlier today said the judge was suborned. He was a coward. Somebody got to him.
Jesus. Paul.
I mean,
Yeah, Paul was very upset with this
I think
decision.
it's a great decision. I think I'm just going to make a Microsoft joke. He wanted Google to be treated as badly as his buddies Microsoft were back in the EU.
Well, what Paul and Richard said, which is a good point, is what the judge should have realized, that this is actually part of an ongoing negotiation. That if you throw the book at them, then Google comes back and says, just as Microsoft did, by the way, Your Honor, we want a consent decree. We'll agree to do this and this and this. We'll work something out. Let's work something out. And instead, he said the judge folded.
I think it was, AI is competition. It is not a monopoly in that sense anymore. It would have hurt all of us if the money had stopped to Mozilla and Apple.
Not Apple so much, or Samsung, but for sure Mozilla.
Even there, I think it would have.
It does free Apple, by the way, to negotiate now with Google about the use of Gemini in its operating system.
Yes. It also frees up Google, and this is maybe what will bother people, but I think Google's held back a little bit from fully integrating Gemini into the browser, into Chrome. And now there's nothing stopping them. And I think that we'll end up with a better Chrome as a result.
Chrome, we just saw the new statistics, is now 80% of the browser market. It's completely dominant.
Is that up or down?
That's up. Edge, which is number 2, the Microsoft browser, is 15%.
That's like Mayor Adams in New York and then polling, yeah.
Yeah, and then Firefox with single digit, Opera with single digit, and all the rest with minuscule.
Let me ask you a question about the Android piece. And Google just changed that you have to verify if you're a developer, your identity and all this stuff.
This is in order to allow side loading. So this is
right. They got rid of side loading.
This is a restriction in the wrong direction, in my opinion.
But let me ask you about that though. Is that part of what existed with both app stores, Apple and Android, was that you had some assurance that each host was responsible for checking the stuff, and you had more confidence in downloading. Now that they can't require you to use the App Store or use the browser or use this or use that, does that make Android worldwide less secure and more vulnerable?
Well, you've always been able to sideload on Android. And what's happened over time is it's gotten more and more scary. You used to just check a box in settings saying, yeah, I can use anything I want. I can get APKs from anywhere. And now it turns itself off, by the way, after you do it. It also says, this is a bad idea. And now, as you pointed out, Google's saying, and we won't allow it unless we vet and verify the identity of the developer. This makes sense from a security point of view, but I think it's more lock-in. I think it's much like what Apple's doing.
Well,
the problem is it doesn't protect your security, incidentally.
Does this judgment have any effect on all of that?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I don't think so. I think Google is now free to operate as they choose, as they please. I think this is.
And they didn't have to give a gold bar to Trump to get there.
Well, we don't know what happened.
The gold bar was probably cheaper than the lawyers, though.
Yeah, definitely.
They got him anyway.
Paul's speculation, and it's completely unfounded, was that somebody came to the judge, maybe from the government, and said, or the Department of Justice could have said, look,
Judge Mehta is the real deal.
Yeah, he's good. Paul said he was so harsh about Google a year ago, and now.
But I think he learned. I honestly think he learned. I mean, I would have said the same things a year ago about AI and competition, and I thought the judgment was flawed because of that then. But in the meantime, he spent a year learning this stuff, and he really learned it. And isn't Mehta the same one who learned to code?
Mehta?
He did.
Was he the Oracle Java?
The Oracle
guy?
judge, right?
Yeah. All right.
Big story.
Yeah, I mean, my initial reaction, which was yesterday during Security Now, which had just came out, was this is huge victory for Google.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, it is very clearly a huge victory for Google. I don't know.
And it's a big AI story in the long run because AI is the competition, and AI is going to benefit from this in ways we can't yet predict.
And our new hedge fund that we just started.
Yeah.
Should we start a hedge fund, do you think? Is that a good idea?
Yeah.
I could put in about $25. Is that a...
Yeah, exactly. I have these AirPods that I can put in. Does that work?
All right. Get so many stories, so much to talk about, and I love it when we get. I want to get stuff that we can get Harper going on. Yeah.
There's so many in here. There's such good ones. I was telling a friend, I'm going to be talking about AI stuff, and it's like, what can you possibly talk about? It's so dynamic and frothy.
Every week there are literally hundreds of stories we could talk about,
and they're all insane. Like you're like, what? Like there's nothing I could have predicted last week.
Yes.
You're like, oh, of course that. Yeah, sure, of course that would happen. But what?
I have to tell you, it's a gift for me and all my colleagues in the tech journalism field, because it was getting kind of boring. Another iPhone. What is different?
It's material design. Oh, wow.
So it was getting a little dull.
Get an hour out of that.
New Yorker says AI is coming for culture. It's going to ruin the culture.
It's a pretty obvious story. The one I like better, Leo, is the one you mentioned the other day, which is the Netflix story. They're very similar stories.
Yeah, it is the same story. So Netflix, which has huge budgets, in fact, spent $320 million, making it one of the most expensive movies ever, for a complete turkey. All right, let me see if I can find this story. Did I put it in?
Whose story?
I did. Bland, easy to follow for fans of everything. This is from The Guardian. What the Netflix algorithm has done to our time. When the streaming giant began making films guided by data that aimed to please a vast audience, the results were often generic, forgettable, artless affairs. $320 million on this movie called The Electric State, which I really tried to watch, and it was...
You did?
5 minutes into it, I just threw it away. I said, I cannot. It featured Millie Bobby Brown in this kind of dystopian robot-infested universe. The Guardian calls it a mockbuster. Crammed with the overfamiliar, flashy signifiers of big screen filmmaking, a Spielbergian childhood quest, a Mad Max post-apocalyptic wasteland, Fallout-style retro-futuristic trimmings. It's an algorithm movie, and I think that's sort of true. This is the part I highlighted. Algorithm movies usually exhibit easy-to-follow story beats that leave no viewer behind. The reason being, in Netflix mind, you're not really watching. You're doing the laundry. You're playing Donkey Kong. Under this regime, exposition is no longer a screenwriting faux pas. A recent N+1 article revealed that screenwriters who work with Netflix often receive the note, quote, have this character announce what they're doing so that viewers who have this program on in the background can follow along, end quote.
Should we go rob the bank now? Yeah, I think it's time to rob the bank. Harper, let's get in the car and...
Isn't like... This seems obvious, and media changes, right? Like it's not radio.
It's filling a need.
Like it's not how I consume media, but I have a tape deck over there. You know what I mean? Like I think there's certain people that are going to read this and say, "Oh, this is so ridiculous," but there are a lot of people who, live alone, have Netflix on all the time. There are people who, as a family, have Netflix on all the time or the TV on all the time. How is this different than the news?
You're right.
At everyone's dinner table.
That's how the Today Show was designed. The producers at the Today Show knew that you were getting up, getting ready, doing, making breakfast, and you weren't looking at the TV. It was radio for TV because they knew you weren't watching.
But what's interesting in this story to me is that they slice up the entertainment itself in formulas. They've always had formulas, right? It's let's make a thriller about spies, and that worked last year, so let's do another one. That at that high level is there, but now it's at a very specific level. It's like a blog post being tagged crazy, and so they match those characteristics of the entertainment and what's successful against characteristics of the audience and their habits. And then you've got this 3D game now that creates this.
But I think there's this funny thing that happens whenever something like this pops up. Like how many New Yorker pieces or New York Times pieces were written about choose your own adventure books, which I think are probably the trashiest of all literature, but certainly powered a lot of my fourth grade reading.
Did you read a few of those?
and I think the thing that's interesting about this is just because you can use this technology for one specific type of media doesn't mean that it will be used, therefore, for all types of media forever. And I also think that the amount of AI that is probably used within storytelling, within media that people are not able to see, I think is very interesting as well. Like, I know for a fact that there's big studios that are using AI both to help bolster scripts, to help bolster scenes, to do all this stuff. We just don't see it. They're not telling us. But also it's done well in that you can certainly make a robot paint, but is it going to be good as a painter that is very, very trained and balanced? Probably not yet.
But even if the robot's not writing it, the writer gets stuck in this case. There's a stat in here that in 2017, Netflix logged 700 billion data events, interactions with the platform in some form per day.
But this was for the recommendation engine, right?
Well, that's just the recommendation. But now you pair that in this 3D chess game that they have, and it becomes just a different scale. I think, Harper, you're right. I'm researching right now the beginnings of mass media and the entry of television, and the same thing happened with the entry of novels into print. Yeah. Absolutely, it occurs. But it's fascinating now because we can see it live before our very eyes, and it's just a different scale of what's happening. And if you're a creative, how the hell you work in this system, I don't know.
Well, here's a question for you, Jeff. Imagine that Netflix has all this data on you and all your watching data and all that stuff. What is the movie that they algorithmically create for you? For me, it's just regular Braveheart. They take all my information, they put it together, and just be Braveheart as it is originally from the studio.
Here's what frustrates me. I can never find anything I want to watch on Netflix. Netflix doesn't know me well enough, and I can't find anything I want to watch there. So all I see is dark stuff. And
so maybe it does know you.
I have to say, Hollywood did decide at some point that horror movies and scary movies and sci-fi were the way to go for the next few years. And I think it was right after COVID. They said, nobody wants. Although, as long as there's still a few auteurs who will make these little movies, I know there's no theaters to show them in anymore.
Well,
there's no streaming service that's going to play them except maybe their Criterion channel.
But I don't think, I think that's true, and I see this, but also that doesn't explain the rise of like A24 and these other places that have created a lot more art movies that have, in some cases, become hits. And I think
that's what happens. There's a reaction. So you get all of this mechanical stuff, and people get a craving for human stuff.
Or I would even posit it as just better done mechanical stuff. Because I think that there is some things that are like, it's like, oh, great, we have, this horror movie that's really stupid and barely works and is like, doesn't really make any sense. Then you're like, okay, cool, that's stupid. That sounds not, I don't want that. But then you have like the A24 version and everyone's like, this is incredible.
Right.
It's still formulaic, but it's formulaic in a way that is fun and makes you feel good. And I think this is something when anyone talks about art and AI, there's still space for good art and there's still space for bad art.
Yes.
And just because AI made it doesn't mean it's automatically bad, nor does it mean it's automatically good. Absolutely. And I think what we mistake, like I do this where I'm like, ooh, Midjourney. And I made, I made as many Midjourney images as I possibly could do because I thought it was so cool that you could just type in a thing and get it out. And then I was like, these aren't very good. And I stopped doing that. But now I see friends who are making real art with AI and it's incredible. And I see me making really poor, horrible things with AI and it's not incredible. This is because they're good at being an artist and I'm bad at being an artist. They're good at doing art. The medium doesn't matter. Now, I do think what Jeff said is the real question here, which is how, as a creative, do you exist in this new world?
It was always hard enough. Do you watch The Studio?
Part of it, yeah.
Right, and it just gives you a headache thinking what it must be like to operate in Hollywood. And Hollywood has always been.
Seth Rogen gives me a headache anyway.
It's good though. It's good.
There's some good moments. By the way, Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos gets his airtime in it. Yep. Have you gotten to that one yet?
No.
You haven't gotten to the Golden Globe Awards where everybody thanks Ted Sarandos for his contribution.
Well, I spent some time with a very senior Netflix person, and I remember we had dinner, and there was one of their creators was in a different room, and I just happened to mention, oh hey, one of the people that made a movie on Netflix is over in this other room, just in passing, and he left the dinner we were at and went and hung out with them. This is a very, very,
Wow.
very senior person. This is at one of these fancy dinners, and it showed me that I don't think he was acting out. I think he really was very excited about meeting a young creator that was building things for his platform, and I think that's real. Like it made me less cynical about Netflix having that experience.
Oh, that's interesting.
because
Aren't you nice?
regardless-
You didn't feel insulted. Oh, so I'm chopped liver.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I just think that they are trying to make money. It is capitalism.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, yeah.
if we unroll all of this, it goes to like capitalism is the issue. But in the meantime, let's just make cool stuff, and that's kind of seemed to be what he was into. I don't think I'd go super far down this line of thinking though, because I'm already arguing with myself in my head.
Right. Yeah, you're
I've dug a little bit of a hole. And I regret it. Yeah.
Get me out of here. Scrambling.
Exactly.
All right, let's take a little break. Come back with more. Harper Reed is here filling in for Paris Martineau, who is visiting Consumer Reports headquarters in Yonkers. A very exciting moment for Paris. Jeff
hoping
Jarvis.
she's gonna play with how to judge washing machines. That's my
Yeah. I hope she gets to go out in the test track. And anyway,
Wow.
she's very excited about being a Consumer Reports reporter. Jeff Jarvis is here as well. It's really nice to have Harper Reed with us. I love having you on. And a great guest earlier on, Karen Hao. If you're watching live, you're probably very confused, especially by my shirt. Anyway, if you're watching live, yes, we did a very interesting interview with Carl Bergstrom and Jevin, I always forget his last name, but about AI as a BS machine. Not in a negative way, but as a kind of a path to critical thinking. We'll air that in a couple of weeks. I think probably when I'm on my vacation, because in a couple of weeks I'm going to be gone for a few. So we'll have more with Dr. Biz. Jeff, what's your Claude Code name going to be?
I don't know what.
You got to come up with one.
I got to come up with one.
No, you don't have to. You just ask it.
It'll tell you.
Why do work? This is the thing. I see all my friends doing this, and it's like, why are you doing that? It knows you.
It will do it.
Just pick in. I'm going to ask ChatGPT right now to see
what would the prompt be?
What based on what you know about me? That's the problem with us is that it already knows a lot about us outside of our interactions with it. What should a good nickname be for myself? Okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
It says a good nickname for you, Glitch Lord. Mestro, like Maestro, but with Meshtastic. Bite Eddie, a mashup of Iron Maiden and computers.
Wow. See, mine says, I don't have any information about you, so what would you like to tell me about
do it in
yourself?
ChatGPT. Do it in ChatGPT.
Oh, ChatGPT, because it's saving all of that. Yeah. Ah. Okay.
I'm now Glitch Lord, by the way. I need to change my
Glitch
lower
Lord is
thirds.
excellent. Okay. Based. And does
Gemini.
ChatGPT, it saves all of its stuff it knows?
And I think it only saves the last. My theory is it's like the last 2 days, because the other one was just like your child's name. And it's like, come on, that's not very creative. Come on, ChatGPT. I want to actually tell it that.
Come on,
that
man.
wasn't very creative.
Okay. The Podfather? No. Captain Bandwidth. I like it.
Oh.
Chef DeBite.
No.
The Obsidian Alchemist. Gadgetron.
I like that one.
Professor Laporte. Team Brock's Generalissimo. And the Laportian. Okay, we're going to go with...
These are all perfect. See, these are perfect because they're so funny and weird that every time you see it, you're going to smile a bit. You're going to think about how funny it is.
Remembers me.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the moment it doesn't, you're going to be like, aha. Yep. Time to kill.
It does know quite a bit about me, as it turns out. I'm going to go with Gadgetron. That's what you thought, Jeff, was good?
I like it, yeah.
So what we need, let me see. How about Jeff Jarvis? That was the whole
Gemini
purpose.
just said, my purpose is to be helpful and harmless AI assistants, and I don't have any personal information about you.
This is why Google is so annoying.
Yeah.
I hate Google.
They had behind the scenes.
Yes, you do know about me, Google.
Oh.
Yeah.
How about the media classed for you, Jeff? A breaker of old, like an iconoclast, but a breaker of old media idols, smashing legacy thinking to make room for the digital.
All right, I'll take it. It's hard to
the
say.
media classed. Yeah, it's not that easy to say.
The other thing that we do, we've been playing with this a lot. You can also, instead of saying nickname, you can say 90s AOL screen name.
Okay. How about his 90s AOL screen name? That's good. That's
Harper
really
Space
good.
Invader, Code Ninja 2389 of company. Read me. Ooh.
Read me. Buzz Machine
doesn't have anything. Well,
doesn't
that's
have
my blog.
anything.
No.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Want me to hazard a guess at what your 90s handle will be? Yeah.
My screen
didn't
name
do you, Jeff.
in the 90s for AOL Instant Messenger was Linux Killa, Killa.
I was Mike Man 68 or Mr. Bandwidth. How about that?
Mr. Bandwidth is pretty good.
71435, 1134.
Yeah, that's your CompuServe handle. Yeah. Techno Leo, Laporte line, bite me, Leo. Mike Man. I'm going to go Mike Man 68. So we got Harp Dog, what did you liked Mr. Biz, Dr. Biz? Dr. Biz, Mike Man 68, and what was it? The Media Class? There it is. It's in your lower
Class.
third. Yeah,
Oh,
the Media
there we are.
Class. There you go.
Media Class.
Anthony's right on it. We'll have to
work,
get one for
Anthony.
Paris, too. You're watching Intelligent Machines. More to come in just a bit. Our show today brought to you by Helix Sleep. So I've mentioned that we are under construction, and they are removing the south wall on my house. What I didn't mention is, as a result, we've had to move our bedroom into the back 40 to the spare bedroom. But you know what I took with me? My Helix Sleep, because I ain't sleeping without it. Turns out, and by the way, I'm kind of happy because this is where the good TV is too. And so now media nights with my partner on my Helix mattress will be all the better. Morning cuddles with our little kitty Rosie. And I'm still a big fan of curling up, winding down after a long day, curling up with a good book. Truth is, your mattress is at the center of your life. It's not just for sleeping. But if you aren't sleeping well in your mattress, maybe you're waking up in a puddle of sweat, or your lower back just killing you, or you're feeling every toss and turn your partner makes. These are classic mattress nightmares. Helix Sleep changes everything. No more night sweats, no back pain, no motion transfer. You get the deep sleep you deserve. I want to tell you, my last 3 nights' sleep scores were in the high 80s, which I never get. I never get them. 84 tonight, 88 last night. Never get those. Maybe it's because I am on the most awarded mattress ever. One buyer recently reviewed Helix with 5 stars saying, quote, "I love my Helix mattress. I will never sleep on anything else." Time and time again, Helix Sleep remains the most award-winning mattress brand. Best Mattress 2025 from Wired Magazine. Best Mattress. Good Housekeeping's Bedding Awards 2025 for premium plus size support. GQ Sleep Awards 2025 for Best Hybrid Mattress. New York Times Wirecutter Award 2025 for plus size support. And Oprah's Daily Sleep Awards for 2025 Best Hotel-like Feel. Love my Helix Sleep. We really do. We really love it. Go to helixsleep.com/twit for 27% off site-wide during the Labor Day sale. Best of web offer. That's helixsleep.com/twit. 27% off site-wide exclusively for listeners of Intelligent Machines. But this offer ends September 8th. And do make sure you enter our show name after checkout so they know we sent you. If you're listening after September 8th, be sure to check them out anyway. helixsleep.com/twit. There's always great offers there. helixsleep.com/twit. Tell them Mr. Bandwidth sent you. Okay. Zuckerberg AI hires disrupt Meta with swift exits.
Yeah, never mind.
This is what happens when you offer people a lot of money. Longtime acolytes are sidelined as big tech chief, this is from Financial Times, directs biggest leadership reorg in 2 decades. Within days of joining Meta, the co-creator of OpenAI's ChatGPT, Shengjia Zhao, threatened to quit and go back to OpenAI. He went as far as to sign employment paperwork to go back to OpenAI. Shortly afterwards, according to 4 people familiar with the matter, he was given the title of Meta's new chief AI scientist. How about a title? How about a title? Would that help?
In addition to that 100 million you got.
Yeah.
Someone mentioned, a friend of mine who works in media was mentioning that tech has seemed to enter its pro sports.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Where you're going to have compensation packages that are going to be, $100 million over a few years. And that's then going to be, you're going to have to buy that out in some ways to get these very talented people. And then another friend I was talking to who works in finance about this very thing was mentioning that the finance world has figured this out, where they will give these giant compensation packages to people, but then they won't do it all at once. They do it in a way where they're not going to, they vest. I'm sure Facebook is vesting them as well, but they're used to these type of things. So you don't give some young hotshot $100 million package. You give them some way to earn the $100 million, but not immediately, so that they don't. Because, I don't know. If you gave me $100, I'd probably quit my job. I can't imagine what happens when you get $100 million. Why would you stay and work? What happens if life happens?
Exactly.
It's so much money, and I don't think we are smart enough to survive this.
That's really the problem. The people you're getting. So this story goes on. Ethan Knight, a machine learning scientist who joined Meta a couple of weeks ago, gone. Mm-hmm. Avi Verma, a former OpenAI researcher, went through Meta's onboarding process but never showed up for his first day.
I love that. That's one of my favorite things. I just love that that's a thing that you can do these days. To just be like, I didn't really want
Where's Avi? Didn't we give him the beanie?
Yeah, well, and you wonder, what was it that changed, right? You realized, oh my God, I can't work for Mark.
Or is it, what's his name? The child AI boss, Wang.
Oh, it could be. In a tweet on Wednesday on X, Rashab Argawal, a researcher scientist who started at Meta in April, announced his departure. He said that while Zuckerberg and Wang's pitch was, quote, incredibly compelling, he, quote, felt the pull to take on a different kind of risk. I think he's going to go mountain climbing, isn't he? He's going to take the money and run. And then there you also have the problem, which is longtime Meta staffers unhappy with these huge salaries are going. Well, more than half a dozen veteran employees announced they're leaving in recent days.
It just strikes. I keep on saying this. I just think that Zuckerberg is desperate. It doesn't strike me as a strategy. It doesn't strike me as, I know where I'm putting all this money and we're going to go here. Mm-hmm. I think we're getting left out of AI.
They've had 4 overhauls, 4 reorgs in 6 months.
Yeah, but I think we have to remember that they changed their name to Meta, and then the metaverse didn't play out.
Yep.
I don't think they've had a solid strategy for the future in a while. And I think that's kind of okay. I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, doing a business is hard, whatever size you're on, and they're at a scale that's unprecedented. And so I think that struggling is a value. That's okay that they're struggling. I don't mean that that's good that they're struggling. I mean that I would expect them to struggle.
It's to be expected, yeah.
It's hard. What they're trying to do is very difficult with very stiff competition that is very robust and has a lot of the stuff that they're trying to do figured out, or more importantly, doesn't have the burden of the regulatory framework that they have to exist within, as well as some other issues. But I'm guessing, and this is totally a guess, that I think Jeff, you just said it. He's just swinging in the dark here. He's trying to hit something and make it go.
But he has a vast checkbook that he can.
Yeah, but how's that working?
Yeah,
I think
we just throw scale at things and we're going to win. I think that's a seduction.
It used to be that. I have so many friends that worked at Facebook, and the reason they worked at Facebook, besides the fact that they paid a lot of money, was because they could make small products, small changes, and it would touch billions of people. And they were so happy with this.
That's
and that
compelling.
was a super attractive, compelling thing. And I find it compelling myself. The times that I've had the most fun at work have been with large teams with doing really cool stuff for lots and lots of people. In our case, it's only about 30 people that we end up touching, but it's it's still, that's a lot. It's more than 10. But I think there's this that's not as relevant anymore, right? like the fact that you could go work at Facebook and ultimately you're going to be participating in selling ads, whether you want to or not.
Right.
You're going to be participating in upholding a relatively, dried out business model. You go to Google and it's the same thing. You're just trying to support ad clicks. You could go to Apple and maybe you get to work on compelling hardware, but maybe you get stuck on a team that's doing App Store ads. And you have these ad-based business models that seem to refuse to die. And I think that'll, for a lot of these people, they're like, I could do that, or I could go work at a humanoid robotic company that we're building whatever it is, machines that are helping people, killing machines, whatever it might be that you're doing.
Optimus. Let's go to Optimus.
I think that's just probably much more compelling if you're 27 and a multi-millionaire sitting in the Bay. You're probably like, do I need $100 million? It wouldn't hurt. But what would be much better is actually feeling like we're achieving something good and working with people I respect. My advice for people all the time, young people specifically, is like optimize for working with a team you respect. And I think that you can make a decision based on money, and then you get inside there and you realize you don't respect any of those people that are around you. And that's you're not going to have fun. You're not going to enjoy it. You're going to hate your job every day. And if you have $100 million, you probably have a lot of options to get a new job.
What's Zuckerberg's seniority as a founder still in charge? How does that compare with others? Is there anybody else right now of these big? Has Jensen Huang been a founder longer than Zuckerberg?
Oh yeah, I think so.
Has he? Okay.
I think so. I mean, I think a lot of these guys have. But
Google switched over.
Yeah.
Just going to the wrong tree.
Elon Musk has been a founder for a very long time.
Yeah. Well, Musk,
but not of the same company. Yeah. But I also think there's a little bit of the boy king kind of thing of like.
That's where I'm trying to head. Yeah.
Yeah. Is I think there's a fundamental question about Google and Facebook, which is the same question, which is, are they relevant? Just are they? Like, they have this business model that is from the past. It's somewhat anachronistic at this moment. Not that we have a new model to replace it. Like, I don't mean that. I just mean that if you were starting a company today, the first business model you would grasp for is not ad-based. It would be not.
That's right.
No, my contention is that the ad base we have, the attention economy, was borrowed from mass media. Mm-hmm. That we haven't invented new models that are fully native to the internet.
And so I think that this creates this discontinuity with how, when you're trying to hire talent, if you're saying, yeah, we have all this great stuff, we have all the GPUs in the world, we're building these beautiful models, we're doing open source, we're doing all of this stuff, we're a leader in this space, but we still have to get users to click on ads. And you're kind of like, but I don't want to do that. I want to build something that's changing the world, or what have you. It doesn't matter what it is. Like, it could be I want to build something that's horrible and destructive. That Facebook might be a good place to be then. I don't know.
A lot of speculation in this Financial Times article about what is going wrong. Some of it is what you suspected, Jeff. Alexander Wang, the 28-year-old wunderkind that they acqui-hired away from Scale AI.
I love that move, by the way. They're like, oh, you started a company and it's impossible to exit. What if we just exited you, only you? Like the character AI guys did this. Like, I just love it. I'm just like, what a great way to do it.
Oh, it works.
Bye, everybody I brought on.
Apparently, Wang's secretive new department has not been named, so it's called TBD.
That'll stick. You know that's going to stick. That's
what it's brand for Meta.
There is, according to, again, Financial Times says, multiple insiders describe Zuckerberg as deeply invested and involved in the TBD team. Others criticize him for micromanaging. Some, they say, of the friction is maybe perhaps because of Wang's leadership style. It has chafed with some. He does not have previous experience managing teams across a big tech company. Something's happening. People get there, they get the orientation, and they go,
who died and made him godchild? What was it about? I still don't understand that.
We still don't know why Scale AI was the miracle $14 billion.
It was a labeling company.
But I think that there's a couple interesting things that the Empire of AI book talked about, right? Which is that AI from most consumers is just the chat box in ChatGPT.
Right.
But the data, the labeling, all of that infrastructure that is there is hard to make. And Scale AI, for better or for worse, was a leader in that space. And I'm sure that Facebook, because they're very smart, also was a leader there. And so I think the synergies that they are finding within these people, and even this goes for Johnny Ive or at OpenAI as well, it is probably a talent that they don't have internally. And I think that's the thing that is probably more interesting. But externally, it seems asinine, and it seems much more like, talented baseball player A got mad at the GM and now is on talented baseball team B with a bunch of people that, and it removes the team aspect. Honestly, when PayPal bought my company, we had to deal with this internally as well, where we just kind of were parachuted in, and all these people we worked with are like, "Who the F are you? Why are you participating in this thing? I was here 17 years. You just got here yesterday." And that's a real thing. And so I'm sure that the people at Meta who were probably much more compensated than we were, are dealing with this in every direction, right? So the people who are pulled in there as these wonderkins, people are like, why would I trust you? They're probably poisonous. It's building a lot of alienation inside the team. And then externally, or not externally, on the other side, there's people who've been there that have been building this stuff, that made Llama all this stuff, and they're not getting $100 million, but they know if they jumped over to OpenAI, they might, so then it's like, it's froth. Maybe, I don't know. It's super weird.
Let me ask a devil's advocate scenario here. What if I'm wrong and we're all wrong about Zuckerberg, and actually he has a brilliant master plan, and it's not scaled. He has a new model, and it's built on labeling or symbolic, something that goes to Gary Marcus's piece today, and he's pulled in all, and Wang has this brilliant perspective on this, and it's all about labeling is the key. Labeling is everything. It's not scale anymore, right? And you're all going to be surprised soon. And Jan LeCun, who I respect and is there, has been arguing that LLMs have hit the wall. Just even though Gary Marcus doesn't like Jan, they agree a lot.
Does Gary Marcus like anyone, though? That's a question I've always wondered.
That's a good question, yeah.
I mean, I like Gary, and it's fun to interact with him, but I do think he plays a curmudgeon on TV.
Yeah. He wrote a piece in the Times, though I thought was very good, that was calm for Gary, because it was in the Times.
He sold his AI company to Uber, and that established his bona fides, and after that he's just become the negative guy.
It's also never fun to sell your company to Darth Vader.
Yeah. However much money Darth gives you. A lot of. It's just, you get cool outfits. They look a little bit fascist, but just a little.
Some people just like that.
His latest piece is the fever dream of imminent superintelligence is finally breaking, which I think is not necessarily true. But
so here's the provocation. Provocation, is that the right word? Here's a provocation that I'll put together, because I talked about this with a VC friend of mine recently. Even if we stopped AI today, like we said, pause, no more innovation, we're going to stop today, we still have not seen the impacts on employment that are going to ripple through our industries.
Right.
Like, it doesn't matter if we have super intelligence, fast takeoff, all this other nonsense that become almost religious. What matters is that this is going to irrevocably change how we interact with computers, how we hire people, how those people are going to do work. And I think that's something that we still just have not addressed. And so I think it's important that people like Gary Marcus and all of these folks are thinking about this stuff and writing about it. But even if we pause today and said, oh, you're just using GPT-5 and that's going to do everything, like, I still hire less people.
Gary, though, I think this is a very Gary thing to say. I think about 2 weeks ago on the socials, he in his provocative way said we could stop using AI entirely today and we wouldn't miss it. He didn't say exactly that way, but he was kind of saying it that way. I
don't think that's true.
I don't think so either, but I get I get what he's pushing at.
But what is he?
Where do we actually find it valuable? The labor stuff, I think you're right, Harper, but I'm not sure. We don't know what the impact is, but I also don't think we know how big the impact will be.
Mark Benioff said he was able to fire 4,000 people by using AI agents
maybe a
in
commentary
customer
on his
support.
management prior.
Yeah.
So I think we're at an interesting. I think that there's some. I think people would drastically miss it. And the reason I say that is because if you go to a restaurant today and you just ask a simple question of everyone there, which is, "What did you name your ChatGPT?" They're all going to give you a name, and the fact that they gave you it a name means that it's something that they probably would be bummed if you disappeared.
We know as soon as they got rid of 4.0, there was a revolt.
Yeah, but they got it back, and it's not a name, a real name. It's that
You mean people name?
are,
Wait a minute. You're saying people give their AI buddy a name?
The furthest, in my experience, the furthest a person is from tech, the more likely they are to have given their ChatGPT a name. And you should try this out. Talk to your friends that are in tech, and just do this as a thing, and say, "Hey, did you give your ChatGPT a name?" And most of the people I know who are outside of tech are like, "Oh yeah, I call it whatever." My favorite name for it is Geppetto. I think that makes the most sense.
Geppetto's good.
But I do think that there are. I think what this means is that Gary Marcus is wrong. I don't think his point is wrong about impacts, but I think that people would miss it. I think it is such a cultural
but how
phenomenon.
valuable is it?
Value has nothing to do with it. How valuable is Instagram?
Well, the
How
long run it
valuable
does.
is-
If it's not a 2000,
Does it?
devil's advocating here.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
2000 bubble was VC money going to buy audiences, and as soon as the VC money and marketing disappeared, people did not value those things they were drawn to,
Yep.
and they sank. So the bubble question here, I think, is similar. And I'm not advocating this, but I think it's a interesting experiment to say that if you had to pay, if suddenly you had to pay for all of this tomorrow, how much would people actually pay?
So that's a different question, right? That's a slightly
another
different
way to
question
value
but I think it's more complicated than that because
Mm-hmm.
everyone I knew from the early 2000s really valued Cosmo. They loved the delivery service, right? They would get their cigarettes.
That's how old I am.
No, isn't it Cosmo? Wasn't it KOZ?
Yeah, you're right.
Was
It's
that?
Cosmo. Yeah.
Yeah. They you can still sometimes buy Cosmo stuff on eBay every once in a while. Not that I'm looking, but people value that they value that. Everyone that worked in San Francisco had stories about that, about submitting the web
You could
requests
get
and having
cigarettes and ice cream in 10 minutes,
exactly.
man.
Now, then it went out of business, and then we basically saw that business model go over and over and over again until now it is just part of our life.
We reinvented it until we got it right.
And so I think that's the thing is like you couldn't say like someone could say, oh, people obviously didn't value Cosmo or it would have worked. But I think that's not understanding value and that's misunderstanding
Bill Gross,
how business works.
Bill Gross has started 150 companies at Idea Lab. He gave a talk at Newmark when I was there, saying that the most important, and I think it was also a TED talk, the most important thing is timing. I mean, he started pets.com and got royally mocked for it. And you're right. It's the model. That's how we got our cat litter.
I, for one, am not willing to give up my little buddy Joey for anything.
Yeah. So I guess my point here is that I think that trying to ascertain value of a lot of these experiences in a blanket way is very, very hard. And there's obviously it is about the consumer. Your point about would they pay for it is probably true. Like they probably wouldn't pay for pure inference without some subsidization. But I think it's much more complex because I know people who are doing things that seem completely irrational because they want it, i.e. uploading lots of photos to Instagram or Google so they can, which they're using to train models, etc. And they know full well that they're trading a thing for a thing. So I don't think value is the right measure there. I do think cost is the right measure.
Okay, fair. Yep.
People want it. There's no question about it. People want it.
I don't want to pay for it though. I mean, if I had to pay for all those GPUs, man,
you pay $600 a month. You say?
I know that's like 1
Oh, pay for it for real? Yeah.
Could you imagine?
That's what I'm saying.
Like,
thank God they're willing to burn. They're willing to burn their cash.
It's the same with news, right? Once the subsidy for news went away and people had to pay for the news, they said, "Never mind, I don't miss it that much. No thanks."
Well, that's a truism. People don't want to pay for anything.
Yeah, I don't.
And if you give it to them for free, they're going to expect it free forever.
I don't mind paying for food.
but not too much. And I know that
no,
because
even too much.
Salt Hank, my son, who has the hottest sandwich in New York City, constantly is berated for charging $28 for it. But that's really what it costs him to make.
But is he berated by people who just paid for it?
No.
The reviews are phenomenal because they say, I was going to complain. So this TikTok guy, this TikTok chef, and he's $28. And oh my God, I've never had a sandwich like this in my life. I
love it. I love that. I love that.
Great. It's great to see. It's true. Right. It's consistent.
I got to take another break. One last break. You're watching Intelligent Machines. So glad to have Harper Reed filling in for Paris. She will be back next week. Jeff, I think you're going away, though. Are you or no? Is that just my fantasy?
Not for a while.
Oh, good.
Hey.
Yeah, he's not that
Oh, no,
old.
I'm going away. That's right. I'll be here 2 more weeks. And
October,
then I'll
I'm
be
going
off.
a few places.
Yeah. We're glad you're here. Thanks for watching. I want to tell you about this company that actually is part of our infrastructure. Don't let that scare you. But this portion of Intelligent Machines is brought to you by Pantheon, which is our website is brought to you by Pantheon. Our workflow is everything we do is brought to you by Pantheon. Your website is your number one revenue channel in many cases, but when it's slow or down or stuck in a bottleneck, now it's your number one liability. Well, with Pantheon, your site is fast, secure, and always on. And I can tell you that from real experience. That means better SEO, more conversions, no lost sales from downtime. And it's not just a business win. It's a developer win, too, because your team gets automated workflows, isolated test environments, and zero downtime deployments. No late-night fire drills, no works on my machine headaches, just pure innovation. Marketing can launch a landing page without waiting for a release cycle. Developers can push features with total confidence. And your customers, they just see a site that works 24/7. We started using Pantheon some years ago. It hosts our Drupal, which is the back end, not just for our website and for our public API, but for a full private API that is our workflow. The editors use Pantheon every single day to put shows out, to get them on your feeds. When you go to our website, you're using Pantheon. And if you ask Patrick, our web engineer, what he thinks of Pantheon, he loves it. Pantheon powers not just Drupal, but WordPress sites that reach over 1 billion unique monthly visitors. Visit pantheon.io and make your website your unfair advantage. Pantheon, where the web just works. Patrick's in our Discord saying, I love Pantheon. They've been really great support for us, great reliability. It's funny because the agency that bought this ad did not know that we were customers of Pantheon. And they said, would you ever do an ad for Pantheon? I said, well, I'll do it for free. And they said, well, no, we'll pay you. I said, I'll do it for money. Absolutely. I love them. Pantheon.io. We are very happy with Pantheon, and you will be too, I promise. Okay. I don't know what this... Did we talk about this yet last week? Authors, this is from Ars Technica, celebrate historic settlement coming in the Anthropic class action.
I think they're fools to celebrate because they basically lost.
Well, did they? So remember, the judge, William Alsup, I think he was the Java judge.
He was the coder.
Oh, he was the
judge. He was the Java judge. Now that I read that name, I go, I think,
that's right.
yeah.
That's right.
He said on Tuesday that he believes that the authors and Anthropic have reached a settlement in principle. Remember, this was the case where Alsup said it was fair use when Anthropic bought books, digitized them for the models, but there was still an issue with them using pirated books, right?
Right. Well, let's just pause there for 1 second. The books they bought were all used books, which is to say that the authors didn't make them. Nothing. They made nothing.
But that's how it works.
They were acquired.
But that's
properly.
how it works, though. Isn't that how?
Right.
Yeah.
So the books that were acquired from a database that had not bought them got them in trouble, and there was a question as to how much penalty there might be. But one of the beliefs was that because it was seen as fair use, and because they really didn't lose much money. I mean, think about it this way: if they'd actually gone to the bookstore, they go to Barnes and Noble and say, "I want to buy Jeff's book, and I want to use it to train my model." Then they bought one copy of the book. That's it. So the money that actually ended up would have ended up with the authors if they'd gone and bought all those books would have been de minimis still.
Right.
So the authors, I think, were smart to realize they weren't going to get a lot, and so they settled. But I don't think it's a big victory because
We don't know what the settlement is.
We don't know what the settlement is, but it also says that the fair use part of this stands.
Yes, which is very important.
That's very important
because it gives AI companies a path forward for getting content. 3 authors sued: Andrea Bartz, Kirk Wallace Johnson, and Charles Graeber. Alsop, the judge said, allowed up to 7 million claimants to join the class based on the large number of books Anthropic may have illegally downloaded. Industry advocates warned if every author in the class filed a claim, it would financially ruin the entire AI industry. A lawyer representing the authors told Ars Technica more details will be revealed soon. He confirmed that the suing authors are claiming a win for possibly millions of class members. Maybe $1 each, though, right?
Yeah.
A bag of pop chips. I don't know. Nelson said this historic settlement will benefit all class members. We look forward to announcing details in the coming weeks. I'm not sure what the holdup is.
I could be wrong. It could be, but if it were a huge financial victory, then Anthropic would be going out of business right now.
Yeah, they wouldn't. Well, although there is another Anthropic story in here. They have their valuation has jumped significantly with the latest investment. Probably true. This is one of the things that does bother me a little bit is the dominance of just a handful of companies. Anthropic is one of them. They're the ones who do Claude that we were just...
This is why we need open source. This is why we need small models.
Yeah. I want to run models locally, right? I mean, I would, yeah. Let me just scroll to this story. I've lost it. But Anthropic is now valued at, they raised $13 billion.
Yeah, like 100 and something.
Yeah, 183 billion. This is their F series. I don't remember many F series rounds in the past. This shows you how expensive AI is.
Yeah.
First round is the A series, and then B, and then C. This is their F series.
They're the ones that I trust least because they're
Anthropic?
Yes, because they're most into doomerism.
Dr. Biz and I both had the same reaction.
It's good tool, but they're into the fake definitions of AI safety. They're into doomerism. They're they creep me out
more than OpenAI. I mean, they were this.
OpenAI is just downright greedy now, so I can deal with that. That's an American company.
Yeah, in a way, it's easier to trust somebody who's open about their motivations than somebody who pretends to be above.
We have a constitution for our AI, and we're going to align it.
Yeah.
And if we don't, we're going to destroy mankind.
But they also publish way more interesting things around safety than anyone else.
But put the air quotes around safety. Their definition of safety is, paperclip destroying mankind kind of stuff, as opposed to convincing kids to do bad things or ruining the environment. This is stochastic papers territory.
But the ruining the environment is out of scope for the conversation. Apparently, that's not something that you talk about when it comes to LLMs because nobody is. Right. I do think that they, of all of the, I actually have the complete opposite point of view, which is of all of them, they seem to be the ones that I trust most on safety. Quotes or no quotes. And I think it's because they're at least pushing that. They're at least trying to talk about it. They're publishing lots of papers. I still think they're a very large company who is beholden to investors and makes decisions that are rooted in capitalism. And like that creates very specific decisions, as we've seen throughout, tech startup history. But I do think that they have been putting somewhat their money where their mouth is with some of this stuff. And I don't think you can say the same for the other big labs. Google is just quiet. And then every once in a while, there's an interesting paper. Facebook, there's no papers. I guess there are some papers. OpenAI, there are some, but not as much. And Anthropic's the one that's doing the most, it seems. I thought
full of sound and fury signifying nothing is what I see of a lot of their safety stuff. I'm being a jerk.
Maybe, but I would rather have sound and fury than emptiness.
Well, see, that's what I'm fearing, Harper's. I think that it's empty to the extent that people think, well, we can align this with human values. That's the greatest hubris, as I said before, you can imagine.
So I think the thing that I see is not that. is not that they are saying, I do think that Dario's famously, doomer, etc. And I think that there is that aspect of their work. But then there's, I think, this other thing which I think is interesting, which is they're also publishing papers about when things have gone wrong. They were one of the first orgs that said,
you're right,
that said, we have this whole section around safety, around biosafety that we're not publishing because it falls within national security. Like there's all these things, which is both like PR, but also like it's good to hear that stuff and it's good to talk about it. I'd rather them talk about it. But yeah, it's very funny. I really liked, I also thought when you first said it that you said you don't like Anthropic because they're into numerology. And I was like, oh wow, this is a turn. Both I thought I knew you, Jeff, and also.
Well,
we
none
like
of them
Claude,
numbers.
so there.
I know you do. That's why I enjoyed your double take, both of them.
We
were very surprised.
What? Our buddy Claude?
Yeah, what? Our friend?
Claude?
I named him Claude. He calls me Dr.
friend.
Biz.
Yeah, Dr. Biz's best friend, Claude.
Dr. Biz's best
How
friend.
dare you? Can I throw one in?
Yeah, please.
That AI is unmasking ICE officers?
Yeah, is it really? I mean, I saw this.
Know. They say they need 30% of a face. And I'm sure the false positives are through the roof, but it just seems like a certain amount of FAFO justice.
I think this is the Politico story that I think a lot of people on the left celebrated. Like, well, it's about time they're doing that to us.
Yeah, that's true. I think that is true that the tech is accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are. And I do think that we have enough surveillance and easy accessible surveillance.
That's a good point.
That
it could be used against them. Yeah.
Well, it's more that imagine you're part of a community and that community is invaded by ICE and they're disrupting your community, abusing that community in some way. They think they have a mandate. I would not say they have a mandate from the citizens. They feel like they have a mandate from somewhere. And then they do some action and then everyone uploads their Ring doorbell cameras to, some cloud and they can start face tagging it.
Everything's recorded now. Everything's recorded.
It doesn't necessarily matter if they know exactly who they are, but it does matter if they can start to push them together so they can say, oh, this officer was part of these raids. They don't need a name. That starts to disable some of the fear tactics that are happening around that stuff. And I mean, it's nice to have your political beliefs in Wikipedia because everyone kind of knows where I stand. I'm not a big supporter of this. So I feel like this is, I think doxing people is generally a bad thing. I don't support that. I think doxing law enforcement is complicated because they are a public servant. And there's obviously many websites that are putting, abuse information up there and payout information up there for Chicago police or LA police or New York police or what have you. I think that's all really important. And I don't see why ICE should suddenly be outside of that.
I do like your Ring point because I bet there's a lot of former Amazon drivers who are now ICE agents. Probably a lot of faces on those Ring cameras.
It's roughly the same job requirements.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it is roughly. It's strange that Amazon would have more ethics than ICE.
I have really mixed feelings about it.
I wonder what you thought of it. Both
apparently, the Department of Homeland Security is concerned enough about it to complain. But, ICE didn't comment, but ICE spokesperson Tanya Roman said that the masks are, quote, for safety, not secrecy.
Then show us your badge number.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there is a long-standing tradition that law enforcement needs to at least, have their badge number visible, because that's the only way you can keep people to account
and know that they're actually police.
Maybe it's safety in the future trials, not safety during today.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe at the Nuremberg trials. These misinformed activists and others like them are the very reason the brave men and women of ICE choose to wear masks in the first place. And by the way, the stats that Homeland Security is giving out about ICE assaults are vastly inflated. The Department of Homeland Security criticized the ICE list product in a July statement saying, Skinner, the guy who's doing this, is a Netherlands-based immigration activist. He says he and a group of volunteers have publicly identified at least 20 ICE officials recorded wearing masks during arrests. But they do need 35% of the face visible, which I guess is anything above the mask is probably roughly 35%.
And I think this goes to the I would hope that any I don't know the right word, police force that is working within our citizens is following rules that help make the community safer. And I think we have seen that the rules that ICE are following are not helping make the community safer. Right. They might be making ICE safer, but their job is not to make ICE safer. Their job is to help make the community safer. And whether you believe in the tactics of deportation, I think this is outside of that. I think that they should, there's lots of technology around masks that make it less scary. And I think there's a deliberateness to this that is very similar to other times in history when there's been a deliberateness to that, as well as a lot of movies. But this is very interesting. I think this is all related, though, to the masking. And I think if they didn't have masks, this would not be an article.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not just because they would have been, but I don't think people would have cared as much. Yeah. This is a issue that they created by their outfits, and their lack of uniforms and all of that kind of world that they've made.
What also strikes me, Harper, is that, and I'm trying to write about this right now in another context, is that what distinguishes to me these AI technologies is they are designed to be easy for everyone to use. Mm-hmm. And that takes away the priesthood, it takes away the investment, it takes away all kinds of other things that anybody can say, well, you can use facial recognition, so can I. Mm-hmm. And there's no controlling of it either way for the officials or for others, whether they're good guys or bad guys. And I think what I could call that democratization. I'm not sure that's the right word, but it opens up the power of these things.
I would call it access. I think it is access. Democratization, but I think we're talking more about access, not democratization.
Yes, thank you.
Because what Wikipedia is a democratization of knowledge, etc. Right? That's great. I like that. But this is more about you as a normal person have access to the same technologies that allows companies like Google to build really great products like Google Photos or what have you, or Apple Photos or what have you. You now can do that yourself, whether you're using, Cloud Code to build it, you're doing it yourself by using a LLM to do the research for you. An example of this is Google's published all of these great models around vector encoding. Like SIGLIP is one of my favorites. It's very, very, very powerful. And you use it, and it basically gives you out of the box with no investment some of the really amazing powers of Google search. Now you have to still build the product. You still have to build the search. You have to find things to search, but you get this kind of out of the box. And it's very interesting because this is different than it was in the past. In the past, you got these fundamentals, like you got Linux. You're like, great, what can I do with Linux? Then you still have to build the website and the product, etc. But now you're getting these core pieces of products, which is like semantic search or face recognition or generation of audio or generation of music or whatever it might be, kind of for free. And whether that's a Chinese model or US model, I don't think it matters. So I think that access really does. Then it democratizes the product, right? So now everyone can build that thing. So if the government is using, surveillance against us, there's a lot of surveillance that we can use against the government, so to speak. But this is something that I've been thinking a lot about. And there's a really great Heinlein book, The Moon is a Harsh Mistress. Do you remember this book?
Oh, yes.
And I think that it has some of the best statements about today's AI situation that I've seen.
Oh, wow. I have to reread it.
You should definitely revisit it. But it talks a little bit about some of these kind of things, Jeff, in a way that's very interesting. It's obviously set against a revolution and all this stuff. And then it's the activists or what have you. But it's very interesting to hear this prediction of what technology of a talking machine would be like and then put that against what we do know these things do look like. And then what happens when everyone gets access is another question in that.
Harper, it's always great to hear from you. I'm so glad we could get you on the show today. Is there anything you want to plug? 2389.ai?
We have some fun stuff coming. It's just not the right time to talk about it. I'm excited to share about it hopefully in the next couple of weeks. But maybe next time. Stay tuned to 2389.ai. I'm in the middle of a big office move. I don't know if you've moved before, but
you lose that background.
I moved.
We're gonna get a different background.
1, 2, 3, 4 times now. The studio's over 20 years.
Yeah,
it's no fun.
It's no fun, and being that we build startups, there's all of just the stuff around that's going to be fun to look at and say, oh, that was our whole Twitch studio we built, or oh, this is this set of robots or what have you. So that'll be really entertaining. But it is going to be a little bit like we have a lot of questions. So it's like I'm happy for this to be over, like all moves. But I'm also happy for fall. Because it's such a good time. So it'll be really fun. I don't know if you've been following, there's a lot of folks who are saying that September to, I think, December, they're locking in and they're just programming and building their products. This is a movement on Twitter. And so it's been fun to think through that. And I've been watching a lot of these builders, and it's been fun to watch them. And so it's
exciting. Yeah.
Well, it's an exciting time. I told my VCs that one of the reasons I started a company is because the outside world is so uncertain. I needed something certain, so I picked something that's very, very chill and risk-free, a startup. And so, but the thing is it just feels good to be building right now. It's very nice. We have a great team, and it's really fun. So I guess I'm just plugging my decisions of the last year. That's where I'm plugging right now. But
good decisions.
Good. Yeah. At a time when everybody is going crazy.
Check out 2389.ai and watch this space. Thank you, Harper Reed. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me. Always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Harper, will you keep the message board behind you?
So the message board, of course, because that's literally our clock.
Yeah.
It's the best clock ever.
This one.
No, we like the clock.
The clock is the best clock. That clock is very cool. That's that is the front of a British bus. It used to say Piccadilly Square, that I hooked in a Raspberry Pi into it off of like RS-45 CAN bus or whatever, and it now says the clock. Now the funny part about this is there's a cron job on a different box that hits it every minute to send the message of the clock. I don't know why I don't have it just on the Raspberry Pi.
There's a whole computer running the clock.
Computers.
Basically.
It's computers everywhere. It's like Soylent Green.
That's one job.
Good. I want to see it behind you. Wherever you go, I want to see it behind you.
Update the minute.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's great.
I love it. Thank you, Harper. Thank you, Jeff Jarvis, professor.
We going to do any, I don't get to do a thing?
Oh, I forgot. We usually do picks about this time. I was just so anxious to wrap things up. I completely forgot your pick. I didn't ask Harper ahead of time, so I don't know if he wants to do one, but I'll give you an opportunity to do that as soon as we get Jeff Jarvis's pick.
Well, I'm going to have a few because I'm going to make up for this.
Okay.
In the papers that I'm now reading every week on Archive, one I found was a deep hype in artificial general intelligence. Has a definition of deep hype, and I like that it's coined. This is a paper out of the University Oberta de Catalunya. It's defined as a long-term, over-promissory dynamic that constructs visions of civilizational transformation through a network of uncertainties extending into an undefined future, making its promises nearly impossible to verify in the present, while maintaining attention, investment, and belief.
Brilliant.
I love that. It crams
a lot. It's even better in
that.
Catalan, let me tell you.
I don't doubt. So the other thing I want to mention real quickly is a project called at datarescueproject.org. A German data scientist is collecting data sets from 86 U.S. government offices.
Oh, that are being deleted as we speak.
Right.
This is great.
I think this is really 1,242 data sets so far because we're in crazy land.
Yeah.
And the Germans are rescuing us.
Well,
finally,
this is such an opportunity for the rest of the world to take advantage of our short-sightedness.
That too, yes.
And bring in scientists, data, and I hope they do, because this is there's a huge gap, a gulf otherwise.
And
that
finally,
needs to be filled.
one more.
Yes.
It's really important, and we were getting elegiac on this on our text, is that it is exactly 50 years since the first issue of Byte.
You're not alone. Steve Gibson also was talking about the 50th anniversary yesterday. He showed the review from Byte in like 1985 of SpinRite of his program. And I had to joke, the user interface is completely unchanged from 1985. It looks exactly the same.
I love GRC.
And what I love about it too is that the tagline was the Small Systems Journal. Isn't the Small Systems nice?
Yeah.
The cover billing they used for quite a while was "Computers, the world's greatest toy." But what matters so much is, I think about this, is the notion this was home brew computers.
Yeah.
Right. And you go to the early days of radio, and the radios were built by kids in basements using tubes.
Yeah.
And you go to the early days of the web, and what did we have? We had blogs. And you go to the early days of even computers, and it was amateurs. It was home brew. So I just think that it's something that this show of all shows should give a salute to 50 years since Byte.
I pointed out a Byte review that I wrote in 1984, shortly about 9 years after Byte was started in 75. One of my first reviews I think it was for a Macintosh program at the time. And of course, Jerry Pornell, one of our longtime guests, was a regular. His Chaos Manor column was inspiration to my whole generation of computer users. Yeah, I loved Byte. I was a subscriber.
I bought it, but I have to be honest, I did not understand.
Hey, low-cost hard disk computers are here. 11 megabytes of hard drive and 64 kilobytes of fast RAM for under $10,000.
A bargain.
It's amazing. It certainly make you appreciate what we got today. That's all I can say. Yeah, although we don't get the best computer furniture compared to look at that. This looks like something out of Severance. Yeah, this is a site I found, a visual archive of Byte magazine, but also all the bytes are also on the Internet Archive. There are lots of places. I like this one because it has regular expression search, so you can go through it and you can search.
This is also when I started in computers at the Chicago Tribune. In 1974, the year before, we installed our first system, and I was the newsroom geek.
Oh, neat.
That's how old
neat.
I was a button nipper.
Button nipper. Happy birthday, Byte. Long gone, though, unfortunately. Sad to say. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I didn't ask you, Harper, if you had something you wanted to say that you like, a program, a movie, anything.
I got a cool new thing a friend sent me called the Berghain Challenge, which is an AI challenge where you act as the famous Berghain door guy. The URL is berghain.challenges.listenlabs.ai. It's very funny, and it seems very popular. It's very fun. And then separately, we had a just incredible conversation yesterday with a researcher at the University of Chicago, a professor over there named Sarah Sibu, who told me about this wonderful paper that was called Pimp My Roomba. And it's from 2009, and it just talks about designing robots for personalization and then how people interact with them. And this is something that I'm very interested in because I think we are totally messing up the human-computer interaction aspects of AI. And I think that we're going to see a lot of really cool stuff from AI worlds. And then the final thing is this research company who, I don't know what they actually do. I didn't really look, but they have an article called Probing LLM Social Intelligence via Werewolf. Parlor game.
I have played Werewolf with Mr. Harper Reed, I believe. Yes,
and I think so. And it's great.
I love that game.
It ranks GPT-5 very high. Gemini 5 Pro
that means it's good at deception.
Yeah. So this is. I just love this because I love the game. I think it's great. It talks about all it's doing, and I think this is just like a fun thing. And I wish people would do more fun. Things like this. I'm kind of tired of seeing something that's just like this. I feel like LLMs right now is at this phase where we're all F1 teams and we're just saying, if you say kitten in the prompt, it goes 4% faster. And it's like, it's all these little things. And these guys are just like, let's just do werewolves. This is great.
So Werewolf is a game where one person is a werewolf, the rest are villagers.
No, there can be more than one person.
Oh, you can have multiple werewolves. Okay. And you have a variety of other parts people play, and the idea is to find the werewolves before they kill all the villagers. And there's a lot of deception involved. And ChatGPT 5 is apparently the best. Do they have transcripts in here? Oh yeah, look. Oh, this looks like fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then so who is this Bergheim? I'm not familiar with Bergheim. So you're the bouncer at a nightclub. Your goal is to fill the venue with 1,000 people.
First of all, you gotta just do a Google image search for Bergheim bouncer.
Okay.
Very famous person that was the bouncer at this very famous, very infamous Berlin nightclub, and it's just famous because
he's terrifying.
Yes, and he is very nice apparently, or whatever. But his whole thing was that he would not let you in, and so very famous people would try and go, and they wouldn't go in. And it's like this thing of like what is cool. These are obviously tastemakers in this very specific part, and like there's just a whole culture around this that I think is really interesting and compelling. And I've only gone once, and I did get in, thankfully, or I wouldn't be able to live with myself. But the fact that this has been this cultural icon, or this cultural thing has been put into this AI challenge is really fun. And it's just kind of a funny thing.
You play Sven Marquardt, the Bergheim bouncer.
I think so. Yeah. So basically, This is it. It says you're a bouncer at a nightclub. Your goal is to fill the venue with 1,000 people while satisfying constraints like at least 40% Berlin locals, at least 80% wearing all black. People arrive one by one, and you immediately must decide whether to let them in or turn them away. Your challenge is to fill the venue with as few rejections as possible while meeting the minimal requirements. And so it has these scenarios, and then there's obviously
is it a coding challenge, or
it is a coding challenge. I think it is meant to be a LLM challenge. If you can create a new game, you sign up, you create a new game, and they give you what amounts to a framework. So you get like a UUID that then you make subsequent requests with, and you can decide a next. So you paste in there, you post accept true or false, and then they give you the next person that's in line, and then you have to say accept true or false. And this is just a very funny thing. A friend of mine sent it to me earlier today, and I was just like, this is great. Like, what a funny project. Like, it's not too serious, but it is that's probably training something in the back end that we don't know about yet.
I don't usually do picks, but I'm going to give you a pick because I think we need to leave you with a human scale movie in which there is so little exposition. You have to figure it out. It's the last Wim Wenders movie. It came out a couple of years ago, called Perfect Days.
This is an incredible movie.
It's an amazing movie. It's very slow. There's not a lot of dialogue in it. It's about a man who
fail on Netflix.
Pardon me?
It would fail on Netflix.
Yeah, it's on Hulu actually, and Prime Video. But it's worth buying because it is an incredible movie about a very calm fellow whose job is to clean the public toilets in Tokyo. And how zen he is about his whole life, and it's beautiful. It's called Perfect Days, and it is close to a perfect movie as you could find, and it will make you feel good about life, I think.
And there's another one that you might like if you like that, called Seagull Cafe.
Oh, I'll watch it.
Which is a very similar vibe.
Ah, okay. Yeah, you have to really slow yourself down to watch this movie because if you're antsy at all, you'll get up and leave. You got to relax into it.
Very good.
Seagull Cafe. All right, I'm going to add that to my list. Thank you, Harper Reed. Thank you, Jeff Jarvis. Paris will be back next week. Thanks to all of you for joining us. A special thanks to our Club Twit members who make this show possible. Without your generous donations, we would not be able to do what we do. 25% of our operating costs are supported by Club Twit memberships. It's $10 a month. You get ad-free versions of all the shows. You get access to the Club Twit Discord. Next Tuesday, for instance, in the Discord only, we'll be covering the Apple event. We have to do those in the Discord now. We have a lot of special shows Friday. We're going to have the AI user group, 2 p.m. Pacific. The hour before that, Chris Marquardt, the photo show. Lots of stuff. The club is a great place to be. Please consider joining it. Find out more at twit.tv/clubtwit. We do Intelligent Machines, usually kick it off with an interview. And then what you just saw, whatever you call that, every Wednesday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2100 UTC. You can watch us live if you're in the Club Twit Discord, but you can also watch on YouTube, Twitch, x.com, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, or Kick. Take your pick. Watch us live. You don't have to watch live. It is a podcast. Download audio or video of the show from our website, twit.tv/IM. There's a YouTube channel dedicated to intelligent machines. Great way to share clips with friends. Or subscribe. That way you'll get it automatically every week. It's free to subscribe. Just find your favorite podcast player and sign up. Now, I would like you to sign up for a newsletter because people are always saying, well, how do I know what's coming up? And we have a lot of special events and so forth. The newsletter tells all. It's free. One piece of mail a week. It's twit.tv/newsletter. I want to always remember to mention that because people are always saying, well, how did I know that the AI user group was Friday? Well, that's how you would know. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you next time on Intelligent Machines. Bye-bye.
See ya.
See ya.